For years he stayed dormant, letting the world do its thing without him interfering after he left it, and his era of shinobi. Now years later, from his dimension watching it again, and he dislikes what he sees. Villains and heroes running amok. Heroes unwilling to slay villains who kill innocents by the hundreds. He would show both sides Justice Uzumaki style. So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Became Evil in DC Universe. So let's start the series. For years I have slumbered. For years I kept to myself in my own dimension I made to get away from my world. A world I had once loved, but come to hate. A world where the greedy and the corrupt spread like a plague. A world where those who would oppose such things were either too weak, too stupid, or in some cases too young to do anything. Even worse, some of those who did have the strength did not have the resolve to end the life of these evil people because it went against their morality. So I did it for them. And what was my reward? Being persecuted for doing what others did not have the spine to do in my place. These so-called good people portrayed me as some villain seeking to monopolize the world by wiping out the competition. How cliché of them. They were just trying to save face and make the people see them as heroes who were fighting the good fight regardless of losing. Sore losers the lot of them. So I left the world before they could hunt me down. To bind me. To control me. Oh, they tried all three. Oh, how they tried. Ha! Morons all. A few of the smarter ones came close to finding my domain, but in the end, time was my ally, and time defeated my enemies for me. Still, it was fun to watch them try to stop my evil from spreading. What evil? The only evil I ever did was seduce sexy beautiful women and have hot passionate sex with them. Was that wrong? Of course not. Okay, that wasn't entirely true. I had seduced and slept with quite a few married women, and those already in some relationship with a man, some of whom were the wives and girlfriends of my enemies, so the hatred of me by said enemies was somewhat justified. Okay, that was not entirely true either. By some, I mean a lot, and by somewhat justified I mean these idiots hunting me should have focused on pleasing their women over coming after to me in pursuit of trying to control power incarnate. Seriously. Why hunt someone who wants to be left alone when you could be at home with your smoking hot wife with strong sexual needs? That was how I saw peace coming to my world. Not through just having power or bonds with others, but through the way of the super pervert, through the way of love, lust, and enjoying the feelings that come with it. Why hate your fellow man and destroy him when you could be with a woman and get yourself laid? Some people actually prefer to pursue power they cannot control, contain, or use over being with a hot woman who wants to be the object of your attention. Blasphemous. Such men clearly don't know how to please a woman in any shape or form in my mind, and as such don't deserve a degree of pity. So here I am, within my own dimension, watching the world that was once my home after so many years have gone by that it is no more. The idiots tried one final means to locate me and it blew up in their faces. Quite literally. The resulting explosion in the aftermath had set humanity back to the extreme dark ages, once where they used stones and clubs and the intelligence of people was reduced to what would later be called cavemen. That was ages ago. Now though, the world had changed along with people. People had finally evolved back into the humans they once were in my time. Only with one major difference I noticed right away. They didn't have any chakra. Not one speck of it. Or at least, not enough to do jutsus of the lowest kind. No. It was faint. Just enough to sustain their lives. Oh sure, some of the people in the world had more chakra over others, but not by much. But that wasn't what got my attention at the moment. No. What had my attention was the humans of the world had changed in other ways. In terms of technology. In terms of the magic now being employed by those who could wield it over chakra. I theorized magic was a warped form of chakra, but I never really wished to test the theory myself. What also got my attention was this constant battle waging between those on the side of good and those fighting on the side of evil. Such a curious thing to see the state of the world as it is now. Heroes in capes, tights, and other strange clothes doing battle against villains with their reasons for fighting these said heroes. Again, some were so cliché on both sides of the fence. Some did good because it was to protect innocent people. Some did evil because they hated the world and wanted to rule it. The world was so black and white with hints of gray so thin, You had to squint to see the nearly invisible line that bridged the gap between the two. Someone needed to shake up the board. To smear more gray into it. And who better to do it than myself? And it just so happens, an excuse of sorts has now given me the means to enter the world again, to shake it up. To twist it. To turn it. To bend it over and give it a good fucking like there was no tomorrow. Starting with the ambitious sorceress currently trying out a spell designed to summon a powerful demon to do her bidding. Cadmus' secret base spell chamber. Tala was in a room she had designed specifically for this special moment. She had been very pushy/demanding for everything in this chamber to be designed exactly to her exact specifications. Naturally, the highest members of Cadmus' High Council Committee were hesitant to let her have what she wanted. They always were, since none of them trusted her despite the obviously skilled talents she possessed in the magical field. Not all that surprising, since they were so reliant on their technology and science. Mysticism was so easily explained these days by it, according to the Cadmus scientists employed here. The string theory, they said. Alternate dimensions, that was their reason, some form of energy, which came from space on a distant faraway galaxy, shooting itself all the way to the planet one night in a 1 in 269 billion odd chance it would hit the Earth, and all without hitting anything else in the process. Idiots! The lot of them. They didn't even believe the gods of old even existed, yet Tala knew otherwise. Ancient artifacts from Greece, Egypt, and other items radiated with the magical properties told in the legends surrounding the gods. Diana of the Misr herself was said to be blessed by the Greek pantheon of gods, and had the powers to back it up. Of course, the Cadmus High Council were all skeptical about the ancient gods, since the Christian faith they belonged to had called all pagan gods evil and anything associated with them, magic included, to be evil by extension. They would of course use her magic for the greater good, considering certain heroes like Superman, as well as some others, were vulnerable to magic, and would need her expertise to a point. But in the end, they would keep her at arm's length. No doubt there was a team on standby to kill her once the usefulness she provided ran out. Not that they would get a chance to give the order. Tala would show them that the magic she commanded could still be a driving, influential force in the world. And what better to do it than summoning a powerful demon to do her bidding in terms of crushing her enemies? Both in terms of the Justice League and within Cadmus itself? Come forth, great demon. The most powerful of the most powerful. One who makes the earth shake and the animals shiver in fear. One who can make all things in this world bow to your presence without equal. Come forth. Your mistress commands it. Called out Tala while she used her magic to rip open a portal needed to bring forth the demon she desired. And sure enough, the call was answered, violently. The room shook when the portal she had set up exploded with power. Energy consumed the room around her, making the sorceress gasp in surprise and with a hint of fear. The spell she used from days of ancient times long before her own life began did not specify what it was she summoned, or even if it could be controlled. She thought her magic would be strong enough when it came out of the portal in a weakened enough state from being summoned by her. But now, Tala wasn't even sure if she would survive the next few minutes. The walls were filled with ancient writings to contain magic within the room. This was done for security and safety reasons to ensure the rest of Cadmus didn't interfere after she was done, and so in the event she failed, it didn't blow up the secret base with everyone in it for the next 200 miles. When the storm of power finally refocused itself, gathering into a single spot, Tala saw it taking the form of a man. No! Man would be too simple a word. This wasn't a man. This wasn't even a demon. This was power incarnate. This was a being who she sensed could easily flick his wrist and end half the planet without breaking a sweat. Tala did not summon a demon like she hoped. Oh no! She had summoned something better. She had summoned a god. Before her stood a god made flesh with the figure of an athletically lean, well-built man in his late teens to early 20s, who looked like he could handle the world's best fighters without effort on his part. One with long, spiky golden hair reaching just to the middle of his back. Whisker-like birthmarks showed on his face. Sharp canines showed from what she saw of his mouth. His eyes were closed, his face a vision of focus, and was clearly centering his power to keep it under control. His clothing was that of baggy white pants a martial arts fighter would wear with a black sash around the waistline. He wore no shoes of any kind and his hands sported claw-like forms and sharp nails capable of cutting into flesh or anything else if they tried. When the figure did open his eyes, Tala gasped from her position on the ground at the sight of them. One red. One purple. One with 3 tomos within them. The other was sporting a rippled look while both eyes glowed with power beyond measure. Before Tala could ponder this further, the figure focused entirely on her, and was in front of the sorceress in a blink an eye. In an instant, Tala felt his grip on her arm, and lifting the woman off the ground like she weighed nothing. He looked right into her eyes with his own, and she found herself frozen. Unable to do anything. What could she do? This being, this demon, this god she had summoned was beyond her means to control. Tala was at his mercy and didn't know what to expect from him. So it was quite the shock to Tala that he suddenly kissed her so passionately while his remaining free hand slipped underneath the slit in her dress and groped her ass. It took her a moment, though it felt longer, to realize what was happening. The fact she was now moaning from his actions didn't help, and she pushed against him while now muffling her protest. When the man finally broke in the kiss, Tala, on anger-based instinct of being taken advantage of, slapped the godly figure right in the face with all of her anger-filled womanly strength, and her eyes widened when she realized what just happened. And this being's response? He laughed. Laughed in amusement. Damn! I have been slapped by a woman since... How long has it been? Not since I did the same thing to Anko after she chased me through the forest of death that one time I did a cool prank and I got the drop on her, commented the man to himself at the mention of the woman from his past. Sure, she may have hated for the prank before going from predator to the prey in the end of their chase, but the sexual benefits of him screwing her stupid made up for her anger over it afterwards. Good times. Let go of me, commanded Tala, though her voice did not show the strength behind the words spoken to make him obey. And why would I want to do that? Asked the man curiously while giving the ass of this fine-looking sorceress a squeeze to make her squeak and blush. Be because I summoned you. I am your master. I am Tala, mistress of the magic arts. Why you belong to me? Exclaimed Tala while trying to get out of his grip and the feeling of his hand on her. But you summoned me? After my little entrance here just now, do you really think that your little spell summoned me to this world? To control me like some pet, to obey your every command? Questioned the man while he pressed Tala closer to him and grinned at her. You couldn't have come here to this world through any other means, answered Tala in a still nervous tone, while she blushed further when something quite big and hard from him pressed against her at the hip. Wrong, my dear. I have always been a part of this world. I just chose to leave it long ago before times are what they are now. I could enter and leave at any time. But your actions have finally given me an excuse to enter it once more and do something about the world as it is now, replied the figure while Tala was confused. What do you mean? Asked Tala while the figure became almost completely serious despite holding her the way he was right now. The world is unstable. Out of balance. Good seeks to destroy evil. Evil seeks to destroy good. One wants peace, but doesn't have the spine to get it done the right way. The other seeks to conquer the world, but does it in the most incredibly stupid ways with no real understanding of what they do in the process, and thus ignore the ramifications of their action. Both sides are constantly hiding behind their excuses of doing things for the great good, their hatred for the world, or some other stupid bullshit in just doing such things for fun. I have watched this world get to the point where I am sick of the constant tug-of-war between the two main opposing sides for the right to influence the planet's masses. It is high time a third, more capable party stepped into the arena to change things and for the better. Namely, me, said the figure now grinning at the end. And just who are you? What are you? Asked Tala with the figure's grinning increasing. Me? My name is Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto to be exact? And as to what I am? I am the Nightingale Jubi, the most powerful Biju in existence, declared Naruto with Tala now looking shocked and confused by this. I don't understand your title, said Tala while Naruto's grin increased and his eyes gleamed with lust. Don't worry, my dear. In time, you will understand. In time, you will see things my way. In time, we will bring an end to the stupidity between heroes and villains running around this world, replied Naruto while giving Tala's ass one more squeeze. And how do you intend to do that? asked Tala while blushing once more with the reminder of her current position strangely making the woman to be quite aroused. Simple, my dear Tala. I am going to remove key players on both sides in my own way. I won't be on the side of good or evil like many people would believe someone of my own status wishes to take, replied Naruto while growling hungrily into Tala's ear and making the woman shiver. If you are not siding with heroes or villains, what side are you on? Asked Tala while she felt him kissing her neckline sensually. The side that will triumph over all in the years to come. The side of the super pervert, exclaimed Naruto before looking right into Tala's eyes, and she almost reminded him of his wife Hinata. Almost. Super what? Asked Tala in shock and wondered just happened to her life to be in the presence of this strange individual. Naruto's response was to keep on grinning and kiss the sorceress with a passion, with the woman finding herself melting, figuratively, under his touch. Tala tried to fight back at first since she was not about to surrender her body to just anyone, but her body was no longer capable of resisting him. He had pressed all the right buttons before she could stop him. He had her pinned. He had her aroused. And he had made it quite clear from such close contact with his own appendage between his legs currently poking the front of her waist that it was not something he would be ashamed of using to pleasure a woman. She had lost the fight of resisting this godly being the first time he kissed her. It wasn't long before her moans of protest became moans of passion, and Tala's free hand began to caress Naruto's muscled upper body over trying to push it away. Soon, Tala felt her clothing falling to the ground of the destroyed room after it was equally destroyed by Naruto's clawed hands. He ripped the clothing off like the fabric was made of wet tissue paper, and the sudden feeling of nakedness was soon felt all over. It didn't bother her that she was naked. Tala never wore underwear most of the time anyway, and had a nearly unlimited amount of dresses like that one in her room. No. What she wanted right now was to see him naked. Her hand that had been free to roam his torso moved lower to his pants. The expert hand used in magic eventually got the sash Naruto used as a belt to come loose and gave his pants a tug down to his ankles. Anxious, are we? Joked Naruto with a grin when he broke the kiss and saw her eyes widen in shock from seeing and feeling his monster appendage. How can you be this big? Asked Tala almost breathlessly while she looked from it to him and back. If you only knew. Not that she has to know the age-old theory back from my time about how high chakra levels equals a massive endowment are quite true. Hinata always knew it to be true when we were younger. The shy peeping pervert. Damn, I miss her, and the sex we had. That woman was a demon herself in the sack, just like Anko, Hana, Shizen, and the others I claimed, thought Naruto with a smirk on his face, knowing Tala like the other women in his love life had been in awe of his third leg. Mainly because he and it ruined them for anyone else in all things sex-related. Tala of course soon found herself drooling at the sight of his endowment, and mentally wondered if it would even fit inside of her. Of course she was sure it would, but only after some effort and lubrication on her part would it be ready. As such, the sorceress got on her knees, staring at the massive thing, and inhaling its masculine scent. It made the woman shiver with lust, and was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. She needed this. She wanted this. She wanted him in every sense of the word, and Tala would have him. She was drawn to power. It was intoxicating. Power was an aphrodisiac to Tala, and this godly being was making the woman becoming soaking wet between her legs. As for Naruto, he was growling approvingly at the woman's mouth, now attending to his erection in a loving fashion. Oh, how he needed this. Being away with no female contact for so long almost made him feel like a convict getting out of prison for so long, and the need for a woman to fuck taking over his mind. The woman in front of him clearly had a few lovers in the past from the way she worked on his shaft. Though he doubted they were as endowed as himself, or were able to satisfy her in return. Naruto got the feeling her past lovers had been rather disappointing in terms of satisfying Tala in bed. He would have no problems there. After a nice long amount of time, Naruto finally came in Tala's mouth with the amount nearly overwhelmed the woman. Not surprising considering Naruto didn't tell her short of a groan before firing his load off, but she endured. Tala was not a woman who let things go or intimidate her despite what had happened recently with the titled Naiden Jubi, as Naruto had called himself, entering her life. When she committed to something, Tala went all the way, and saw it through to the end. Like now. So much. You came so much, said Tala in shock and breathlessly after she swallowed everything he released with some effort while Naruto smirked down at her. And this was just the beginning of our fun, my dear, said Naruto with Tala now looking slightly surprised to hear this. Just the beginning? Asked Tala before she noticed his erection had not died down and was clearly ready for another round. You didn't think it would be over after one time, did you? Questioned Naruto with his smirk growing at her realization his body's performance sexually. He had stamina to match his size. Tala didn't know if she should be happy or concerned regarding how her body would most likely be sore tomorrow. Naruto's grin only increased when he saw Tala's eyes glaze over in lust at realizing he could do so much more after what she just did. He quickly picked her up off the ground and held Tala by the waist with his erection looking ready to spear the sorceress right between the legs. Before Tala could even voice her concerns about it fitting, Naruto's erection had entered, and the woman let out a silent scream of shocked pleasure. She grabbed onto his shoulders while her legs tried to wrap around his body on instinct as Naruto thrust deeper into her womanly body while trying to fill her with his shaft. Never had Tala felt so full in all her life. None of her previous lovers even came close to making sex feel this good. Of course, to be fair, none of them were a primordial god-like entity with the power to rip the world to pieces. But that was beside the point. Claim me. Take me. I am yours forever. I don't care what path you take for this world. I want to be with you no matter what, whispered Tala passionately into his ear while she held on for dear life while Naruto held onto the woman by her ass and thrust deeper until he couldn't go any further. She only made Naruto grin further while he kept pounding away at her. Damn right you are mine forever. And not just you. Every hot heroine and villainess who catches my fancy are going to be mine too, thought Naruto while his plan would soon be set in motion once he was done screwing Tala to the point where she would tell him just about anything he wanted to know about Cadmus or the Justice League. And he had plans. Plans within plans? First, he needed to bang Tala into blissful unconscious. So far, Naruto was off to a good start there. Second, he needed to do some digging around into Cadmus and the Justice League they were fighting against in the shadows. Never hurts to have blackmail and leverage against the warring parties should the time comes to use it. Third, he needed to remove certain people from each organization and make the world a better place for it in the process. Not that hard really, since each piece from the opposing sides of the board could easily be removed in different ways. Some in a more lethal sense over others. But not all. Naruto had watched these heroes and villains do battle against each other at times, both solo and as a group. He knew of their lives, their hardships, and why they resorted to crimes or fighting against those who commit crimes. And finally, his fourth objective would be to put himself in a strong position of power where either side alone or together could challenge him if they were to learn the truth behind what he really is and decide to do something about it. The last thing Naruto wanted was for both sides to unite and actually manage to defeat or imprison him just for being himself. That would suck. Tala's scream from the orgasm she just gained, which brought Naruto back to the present of what he was doing and who he was doing it with. Looking at Tala, the Nidain Jubi realized he must have been lost in his own thoughts for some time with his body going on full autopilot because Tala was showing she had been having multiple orgasms. He was thinking about his plans for the world so deeply just now, Naruto almost missed out on the sensation of his own release and firing his load into Tala's pussy. Her own body was glistening with sweat from moving up and down his body in order to keep up with him. The grip she had on his shoulders was weakened considerably, and her breath was one of someone who was extremely tired from such exercise. So tired. Need rest, whispered Tala while Naruto held her and felt him still hard within her body. And you will, when I say you can rest, replied Naruto while giving her a mini thrust and made Tala gasp at the jolt of pleasure she felt. Well, at least the meeting with the Cadmus High Council committee members won't be for the next few days, thought Tala before she found herself on the ground, on her knees, and being taken from behind by Naruto. Oh yeah? She was going to be sore after this. Tala's bedroom sometime later. Eventually, the hot passionate sex Naruto and Tala started having in the destroyed spell chamber had somehow moved to her bedroom, and ultimately to the bed itself. Right now, Naruto was currently naked, lying down on the bed with Tala on top of him, and the sorceress herself sleeping with a very happy content look on her face. He ran his clawed hand lovingly through her long purplish hair and thought about who to target next in terms of females this world had to offer. Who among the two factions of Cadmus and the Justice League or possibly Justice League-affiliated organization would he choose from to quite literally seduce to his side? From what Tala had told him right before she fell asleep following their time screwing each other silly, some the heroes all over were rumored to be in relationships with each other, which only confirmed what Naruto knew from his observations when watching the world from time to time to check on its overall progress. Sure, some hid the relationships they had to keep the public and their enemies at large in the dark. To that end, he had to plan accordingly on which woman to seduce, and who to leave alone depending on their relationship with the man they were already with. Namely, the rumored romantic relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman. Though why call the romantic relationship a rumor when everyone on the damn planet knew it was real? The two were deeply in love and made the other happy. The problem Naruto saw was not with the two being together, but various factions within Cadmus and the villains out there wanting the couple to split, or one of them dying before they could have a child. He had seen enough of the history of the planet, and when Superman went solo before forming the Justice League with its founding members to know the Man of Steel longed for a day where he could have a family, to truly settle down after years of protecting the world and having a child or possibly children to help carry on his legacy as a hero and even that of the Kryptonian people he came from. Naruto also knew there were few women in the known universe truly compatible with Superman's physiology to make such a dream become reality, Wonder Woman being chief among them. Sadly, Naruto also knew many feared the union between the two, and what their progeny could do if allowed to develop his or her own potential. As such, the Cadmus higher-up were monitoring the movements of the two closely in order to properly determine whether the two heroes had actually succeeded in procreating, to learn where they would go or suspect they would go for a lengthy amount of time during the overall pregnancy period, whether on Earth or on one of the League's deep space missions set up as a goodwill mission to some distant world. Naruto had seen the good the two had done for the world and was upset the world in turn did not seem to appreciate them as much as it should. Only a third of the world overall as a whole seemed to like Superman these days, same with Wonder Woman, and the Justice League he helped form with the other founders. And for what? All because of the fact the Man of Steel was at one point brainwashed by some dark entity from another galaxy for a time? It seemed stupid in Naruto's mind to hate Superman for that, just like it was stupid of his village to hate Kurama for what Uchiha Obito did the night of his birth in taking control of the fox in order to make the Biju attack Konoha. They still did, but that was beside the point. Besides, Naruto had to give Superman props for holding back the way he did when it came to fighting villains. The Nidain Jubi sensed the Kryptonian was holding back a lot of his strength in a fight, afraid to actually kill someone, and be labeled a murderer or even an uncontrollable killer among the people. The adopted son of Earth could have used his powers for evil, become a tyrant who few could match or challenge. It was clear to him that Superman loved the people on Earth and wanted them to love him back, so he did everything possible to help them progress to that point. The Man of Steel was like an adopted stepchild and wanted to prove himself worthy of his adopted home in front of his adopted step-siblings. An understandable and noble goal, to be sure, but Naruto knew deep down, Superman wouldn't get a fair shake with the world since he was alien by birth, and as such would not be truly loved by humanity, or at least the vast majority of humanity. Most people only really tolerated Superman as a whole because of all the work he did in protecting them. But sure enough, it would only last so long as he was able to keep doing his job of protecting them. The day Superman could no longer protect the Earth, Naruto knew humanity as a whole would turn on him, and all the Man of Steel would have left are his true friends. His loved ones, who truly cared about his well-being, would be protecting him from harm when the time came. So Naruto decided to help the Man of Steel out. Yes, he would be the first person on the board to be removed from this conflict. Wonder Woman would be next by default since the Nidain Jubi didn't want them to be separated from each other. No, Superman was someone who deserved to be happy and live a life of peace somewhere without the worry of his family coming to harm. A grand reward of sorts for Superman's years of noble loyal service to the mostly ungrateful people of this planet in protecting them from all sorts of evil. Yes, a reward where Superman's desire buried deep in his heart would be made reality, and know of happiness without fear of it being destroyed. And after that? he would focus on the rest of the Justice League and Cadmus. I need to do more research into his background before I make my move to remove those two heroes from the world. As for Cadmus, I will have Tala here fill me in about them at a later time, and what she knows about the organization before I make my move. From what I saw earlier during my observations of the world, those in charge are like a bunch of scheming power-hungry morons like Danzo, and those old shriveled-up shinobi elders I had back in Konoha. Not only that, but I need to see the rest of the world, and just how messed up it is before I can fix it, my way, thought Naruto while he continued thinking about his plans for the world and how to execute them. He couldn't wait to smash up the board holding these two factions and turn the world on its axis. Naruto sat quietly in an open outdoor cafe drinking some tea. It was just across the street and slightly to the left, or was it to the right, of a building with a giant world globe titled the Daily Planet with the world spinning like it was the planet itself. Neat. A little bold for his taste, but still neat. A newspaper with honesty, integrity, and a beacon of light to expose the truth of dark things that seek to hurt humanity. It was no wonder Superman worked here under his human alias as Clark Kent. Why must we sit here and do nothing all day? Asked Tala with a slight impatience in her voice while she was dressed in casual street clothing consisting of tight-fitting jeans, sneakers, a white t-shirt, dark jacket, and her hair braided. She also was wearing dark glasses so no one would see her eyes. Naruto himself was dressed just as casually, though his jeans were more baggy, with a tight-fitting t-shirt, sneakers, and a grin on his face that could make the sun seem like a dimming light bulb. He was wearing sunglasses so no one would see his mismatched eyes, and no one really saw his whisker marks were entirely visible far away, and most just assumed they were just for show. We are not sitting here doing nothing all day, my dear Tala. We are doing some spying on a member of the Justice League, remarked Naruto while sipping some tea and acting casual. Spying? On a League member? But this is Metropolis. That would mean we are spying on him, exclaimed Tala, so she didn't reveal who they were spying on, knowing that this person has super hearing. Yes. You sound afraid, commented Naruto with a hint of amusement. Of course I am afraid. The man has super hearing. He could be hearing this conversation right now, exclaimed Tala with worry in her voice. It was bad enough she lied to the Cadmus High Council about going to Metropolis for a week under the pretense of scouting mystical locations where magic energies were still strong, but being here, spying on one of the Justice League founders, was even worse. What if they got caught? What if the League tried to interrogate her? What if Cadmus decided to interrogate her for lying? Calm your thoughts, Tala. He can't hear us. I put up a sound bubble. No one can hear us outside of its range, said Naruto, knowing the sorceress was freaking out. You could have told me that sooner, you ass, exclaimed Tala with Naruto smirking at her. I could have, but the sight of you flustered is a real turn-on. I'm almost tempted to bend you over in this public place and fuck you silly, replied Naruto with Tala going red in the face at his words. Why, you wouldn't dare, exclaimed Tala while she felt herself getting slightly turned on herself, but kept stamped down on it for obvious purposes. Too much risk, not enough reward, no matter many orgasms the man next to her could give with his skills in all things sex. I said I was tempted. I didn't say I would do it. Not until we are in a more private setting in any case, replied Naruto while Tala blushed harder, knowing he would ravage her at a later time. She learned from the past couple of days that this man's libido was very demanding when it came to wanting her. Must you be crude and talk about sex like it's the most casual thing? And why must we spy on our enemy in the first place? Questioned Tala with Naruto letting out a chuckle. Says the woman who said the most interesting things when I went down on her not 2 hours ago. Besides, if I am to carry out my plan, I need to monitor the most powerful of all the Justice League members before I make my play to remove him from it, replied Naruto while Tala frowned at him. Who is he behind the cape? Asked Tala at last curiously. You don't know? It is so obvious to the point where upon seeing it makes you want to smack yourself in the face, remarked Naruto with Tala scowled at him. No one in Cadmus knows his identity. Trust me when I say the organization has tried to find out for years. No one knows. Not even Luther and Dr. Hamilton, replied Tala, since she knew Amanda Waller and General Sam Lane have wanted to know for years so they could find those close to him and use as leverage. Really? Some of the sharpest, most ruthless minds in all the world, and they can't figure out the identity of Superman himself? Even when the man could standing there in his own disguise talking to them as if he was an ordinary person? That's just sad, remarked Naruto while wondering how so many people who work for the only organization to rival the Justice League couldn't see the truth when it was quite literally staring them back in the face. Well, not all of us are highly intelligent primordial god capable of annihilating people with a flick of the wrist, commented Tala with Naruto giving her a sweet smile that didn't meet the eyes. Now Tala, if you don't behave, I'm going to strip you naked, and spank your incredibly hot ass here until both cheeks are red for all to see. I doubt you want that happen since I will easily be vanishing from sight to let you deal with the fallout of such exposure, replied Naruto in a tone worthy of an Uzumaki, who did not like to be crossed. And sure enough, Tala decided to shut up while blushing red in the face since she knew better than calling his bluff. While this was happening, Naruto returned to focusing on the Daily Planet where his target was coming out of the building with one Lois Lane. Oh, if General Sam Lane could see his daughter now, speaking to Superman and not even realizing it. Come on, Smallville. You need to go out more. I know you like spending your time with that special woman in your life, but you don't need to tend to her every second. Where is that so-called male pride I have seen in just about every other man in my life? Questioned Lois while they headed for her car to handle a story given to them by Perry White. You haven't met her, Lois. The woman I am seeing is indeed special. I would be an idiot to not spend time with her, replied Clark while getting in the passenger side of the car. Typical country bumpkin education. I bet you never had an adventure in your life before coming here, remarked Lois with a smirk before getting in and shutting the door. You would surprisingly lose that bet, Lois, said Clark before Lois turned on the car and drove to their story unaware of the fact they were being watched. Well, one of them was being watched at any rate. That was Superman. But he doesn't look like him at all, commented Tala in surprise while wondering where she saw the man her lover was watching the two reporters from the Daily Planet. Of course not. When you see Superman, you see a man in a cape, in a blue suit showing off well-defined muscles, and flying around saving people. The man you just saw walking out of the Daily Planet looked like an ordinary man of the same build wearing a suit and tie, but was also slouching slightly to decrease his height just a smidge. He does this just to continue fooling the masses, as well as wearing glasses that give him that nerdy look, and thus people do not associate him with the handsome face many women look at when they see the Man of Steel in person. The man is for all intensive purposes hiding in plain sight, said Naruto while Tala was shocked by this. I should report this to Cadmus. They will want to investigate this further, said Tala with Naruto shaking his head no. That would be a bad idea, Tala. Cadmus would jeopardize my plans for Superman and Wonder Woman by extension, said Naruto while he looked at her. You mentioned you had plans for them, but never explained it to me, countered Tala with a hint of anger at being kept out of the loop at this point. Simple. I'm going to help Superman retire from being a hero of this world and Wonder Woman is going to help me. In fact, she will be joining him in that regard, said Naruto with Tala looking even more confused. And how exactly are you going to pull it off? Asked Tala knowing Wonder Woman would never betray Superman in such a manner. Not willingly. Fine. Spoil my fun. To answer your question, I will ask you a question in turn. What do you know of Wonder Woman's golden lasso? Asked Naruto with Tala frowning at first since she had done her research into it per the command of High Council Committee of Cadmus. It compels those wrapped or touching it to speak the truth, even if they would prefer to lie despite its command. It is also rumored to make people bound to it do things by the holder, said Tala while Naruto smirked. It's not a rumor. That lasso of truth can do just that, replied Naruto with Tala frowning in confusion. And how do you know that? Asked Tala with Naruto turning to look at her and push his dark glasses down. Because while we are spying on Superman in his alter ego's form, one of my shadow clones has been spying on Wonder Woman. She's currently fighting some thugs and using the lasso of truth to keep them contained. I am a natural sensor from my era when we could sense energy, and I have been analyzing the golden rope she uses from a safe distance. The energy within the ropes does indeed compel someone to speak the truth by actually suppressing the part of the brain that gives us the ability to lie. At the same time, the energy also covers other parts of the brain surrounding free will, so should Wonder Woman give a command, The energy would target the brain of the one bound by the rope, and implant the said command into the brain to be obeyed without question. Think of it like adding or installing any additional programs into a computer system it didn't have up until being placed inside, explained Naruto, with Tala looking thoughtfully for a second before frowning in confusion. But in order to use the rope, you would have to steal it from her, commented Tala, with Naruto smirking. I have been known to possess the devil's luck, replied Naruto with a chuckle. You are crazy. You would have to sneak into her home or fight out in the open before taking the lasso of truth from Wonder Woman. She is an experienced warrior and is a master when it comes to fighting, warned Tala, with Naruto shrugging. Why do you think I'm spying on her and Superman? I know one's identity. I follow one or both for the other to find out where they live and go from there, replied Naruto like it was the simplest answer in the world. Has anyone ever said you had balls of steel to do what you are doing? Asked Tala, with Naruto letting out an amused chuckle. All the time. My past lovers chief among them. Including you too, replied Naruto in a mischievous tone while Tala blushed and glared at him. Pervert, grumbled Tala while Naruto leered at her. You say that now, Tala, but this pervert has given you a total of 75 orgasms from this 1 week alone. Maybe you don't want me to keep doing that, remarked Naruto, with Tala going pale in the face, knowing that despite his innuendos and crude comments, he had for all intensive purposes spoiled her with sex. If he decided to stop being intimate, her sex life would be non-existent from that point on, and her libido would no doubt suffocate from it. No other individual would be able to remotely satisfy her. She may even have to consider being with women instead of men if that happened. Sorry, whispered Tala in a submissive tone while Naruto smirked. Come on. We're heading back to the hotel, said Naruto while giving Tala a knowing look. Seriously? You want to have sex again? Now? Asked Tala, with Naruto looking at her like he had been hurt. Oh Tala, you make it sound like sex with me is painful beyond measure. If that is how you feel, perhaps I should seek out another woman or women to satisfy my libido. Maybe I should find and seduce Supergirl? Or maybe her older cousin Power Girl? What was the name of the former Teen Titan? The one, who had her mind scrambled a few years ago, had to leave the organization due to her libido being out of control, and later had to go into exile so she didn't use her training as a sex slave from her time with the Gordanians to ravage any man within 10 feet of her? Starfire, I believe her name was, correct? Asked Naruto in a mocking tone. You wouldn't dare! Exclaimed Tala angrily while she glared at him right in the eyes. Oh, but I would. And don't even think about threatening me with your magic. You forget which one of us is the stronger entity. Besides, my libido is very demanding, and while you have done a wonderful job satisfying it so far, I am in need of more women to keep myself happy. I told you this before we left on this little spying mission and why it had to be done. Surely you don't want me to be miserable. One woman alone cannot satisfy my sexual needs. You would be sore almost every single day if it was just you alone, and there is only so much punishment your body can take from the force of my hips smacking into yours, said Naruto, with Tala looking away and grumbling. It still doesn't mean I have to like it, grumbled Tala before she squeaked when one of his hands went to her tight jean-wearing butt and held the woman close. It takes time to get used to such things, Tala. Believe me when I say I know. But we have plenty of time, and we both know you don't mind the sex we have. Or the needed rest that follows, said Naruto, with Tala blushing further since it was all true. She still didn't like the idea. Not yet. Apartment of Diana Prince. Later that night, Princess Diana aka Wonder Woman, or also known as Diana Prince when blending into the populace to live like a normal person, woke up groaning. She had spent most of the day as Wonder Woman, fighting bad guys, arresting bad guys, doing ambassador work involving various charities, and other humanitarian organizations. What free time she spent was done as Diana Prince with Clark, but even he knew how tired she was from a day requiring the massive energy reserves of an Amazon warrior princess. When she finally got home, her body was exhausted, and needed some much-desired rest to handle the next day. Only as soon as she got home, her mind suddenly became too dizzy to be the result of tiredness, and fell unconscious on the floor. What happened? Questioned Diana to herself, and looked around to find she had been tied up with her own lasso of truth and was in her Wonder Woman outfit that had been underneath her usual clothing. Oh good, you are awake! You were knocked out for a good 3 hours. I was beginning to think the amount of knockout gas used was too much, said Naruto while he was in a chair across from Diana with Tala behind Diana so the Amazon didn't see the sorceress. How did you know I live here? Asked Diana with confusion over anger. Being angry didn't help in this situation. Wasn't hard. I have been watching you almost all day. Ever since those bank robbers came along, and you crushed their escape route along with the getaway car. Who knew Diana Prince was really Wonder Woman underneath such clothing that does little hide your physical beauty despite her best efforts, said Naruto with a grin and Diana's eyes narrowed at him. Did you undress me? Demanded Diana since it was the only explanation and wondered what else he did to her while she was out. Tempting, but no. My female assistant did it. She has magical powers so her removing the clothing only took a second. And as for your bindings, I had to make sure you could not break out while telling me the truth should I need to ask you a question, said Naruto with Diana trying to look back and only saw a glimpse of someone behind her that was female. But the identity of the female was unknown, which was what Tala wanted. If Diana somehow remembered tonight and saw her face, she would talk to Batman who would try to match him up in his own database, or the one in the Justice League's main watchtower. Tala didn't need to be flagged in their system and have Cadmus find out before they started demanding answers from her. Who are you? I have never seen someone like you before and I don't believe we have ever fought in the past, asked Diana while seeing Naruto nod. My name is Jubi. That's all you need to know. As to why I am here to help your lover by the name of Superman find true happiness, replied Naruto with Diana now narrowing her eyes dangerously. Speak carefully, Jubi. For I will make sure you never harm a hair on Cal's head so long as I live, threatened Diana while Naruto raised a hand to calm the Amazon princess. At ease, Princess Diana, I have no intention of causing Cal harm. I merely wish to ensure your cooperation in getting him the happiness he deserves. A place to settle down. Form a family. Not have to worry about government officials of the planet conspiring to find ways to kill or control him using immoral and unethical means while claiming it is for the greater good, remarked Naruto while Diana's eyes narrowed further. Cadmus, whispered Diana while Naruto nodding, got it in one. You know and I know so long as Cadmus exists, your relationship with Superman will never reach its full potential. You will try and try some more to keep it all together. But sooner or later Cadmus will strike when they are certain of their plans being foolproof. They will either kill Cal or find a means to imprison him to study, poke, prod, and ultimately dissect like some lab experiment. All done and designed to make controllable living weapons they will call expendable assets for their personal little schemes. All of which I believe is wrong. Superman has done much for this world and most of the people don't even love him for it. And for what? Because some ambitious, extreme in terms of hate, dark god from another world, brainwashed him for a short time to be the opposite of himself, and basically revealed the majority of humanity's true, ever shameful colors. Rather than forgive him for something that wasn't his fault, the people question his existence being here. Some want him dead or imprisoned. Others want him controlled. To be used for their own ambitions. It's not fair. Granted, life is never fair. But for someone like him, and what his heart desires, I think the world and the universe itself should shift the scales so it is fair this one time, said Naruto seriously while Diana nodded since she believed what happened to her lover was unfair and he deserved better. I agree. But how does this have to do with myself and Cal? Asked Diana while cursing the lasso of truth calling Clark by his Kryptonian name. Simple. I intend for you and Cal to relocate away from Earth to a planet I know would be perfect for you two love birds, answered Naruto with Diana's eyes widening before they narrowed. The Justice League will know something is wrong if you do that if I don't report and when expected for our shift. Some of the best investigative minds in the world work for us, and will know instantly if something is wrong. They will discover your plans and stop you from weakening us even further, said Diana while Naruto smirked. Not if you and Superman go willingly. And it's not like you will be going alone or even to a planet the League doesn't know about. No, what I have in mind benefits everyone I want it to benefit, countered Naruto with Diana glaring at him. And what do you gain from Cal and myself being away from the planet? Questioned Diana while hoping to gain some insight to this strange person's plans. Nice try, my dear, but it matter not what I do following this conversation. You won't be remembering it. Now, sleep, commanded Naruto while putting his will into the rope to make Diana obey the order, and saw with a smile that she did. Why did you talk to her? She won't remember this conversation, remarked Tala with Naruto smiling at his lover's confusion. I know. But I thought I would at the very least have a nice civil conversation with the woman. It might be the only time I do considering what I have planned for them in the near future, explained Naruto while he looked at Tala and saw the deadpan look she was shooting him. That and you wanted to see what she would look like wrapped up with rope bondage sex at its finest, added Tala while Naruto giving her another sweet smile. I have no idea what you are talking about, my dear. Besides, if anyone here knows more about female rope bondage sex and liking it, well, that would be you, replied Naruto with a mischievous smirk, while Tala sputtering for a second while glowering at him. Those weren't ropes. They were ethereal chains. Sprouted from you, I might add, when you tied me up, exclaimed Tala while Naruto snickered at her choice of words. Still bondage sex. And you didn't deny liking it, Tala, replied Naruto with Tala blushing and sputtering again. Just do what you came here to do, exclaimed Tala angrily at having her words used against her before moving to the other room in a huff. Gladly. Now, Diana, I need you to listen to me very carefully. First, the conversation you just had with Jubi did not exist. You will forget it ever existed. Second, I need you to do something in a few days regarding your lover Superman. You love him. You want him. Need him. Desire him. The very idea of being intimate with Superman, or Kal-El if you will, makes your loins froth. You want to see the Man of Steel happy beyond measure, and one day want to be the mother of his children, said Naruto in a soothing tone, and saw Diana's eyes open slightly with a glazed look that told him she was under the power of the lasso of truth. With a nod of her head in understanding, Naruto grinned further, and proceeded to tell Diana what he wanted the Amazon princess to do in the days to come. Diana's apartment several days later. The sound of flesh smacking against flesh was echoing through Diana's bedroom while she and Clark had hot, passionate sex. Her cries of pleasure echoing louder over the act of passion between them. First, it had been dinner in her kitchen, which had a romantic feel all on itself. The love Diana had for Clark showed in her eyes while they ate and talked about things, though Diana seemed to be more focused on him the whole time. One didn't need X-ray vision, the lasso of truth, or the ability to read minds to know what Diana wanted following their romantic dinner for two. As such, the moment they were done eating, Diana grabbed Clark's arm and dragged the slightly shocked man into the bedroom. After throwing him on the bed, the two proceeded with making out before it spiraled into the passionate, hot sexual intimacy it had become now. Many assumed Clark, or Superman as he was called, when among the other heroes of the Justice League, was a gentleman and or Boy Scout at heart when it came being with the opposite sex. Always polite, always nice. Always being the man a woman could take home to meet the parents and get the blessing of the father, or in Diana's case mother and queen of the Amazons, to date their loving daughter. All without the need of said parent to scare the crap out of the daughter's boyfriend with threats of bodily injury in a possible event she should come to any harm. Of course, they couldn't be more further from the truth in their perceptions of Clark when he was with Diana. She brought out the pre-verbal beast in him. Her passion, her fire, her very existence when together helped break the chains of restraint he wrapped himself in to keep his body under control. But with Diana, the Man of Steel had no need for restraint on his end, and the Amazon princess had made it abundantly clear she wanted him to go all out every single time when they coupled. This was no different. Well, it was slightly different. Clark didn't know how it was different, but this night was special kind of way. Diana was more passionate than usual. Not that he minded, but she was demanding more with each passing second they were intertwined. Again, he didn't mind the idea since being with Diana was like heaven to him, and would do all that was within his power to please her. But if he didn't know any better, which he didn't since all the blood in his brain had gone far south between his legs for quite a while, Clark would have assumed she was trying to sap him of all his strength in this single night. He had already come 5 times and Diana still wanted more. The woman was almost insatiable tonight. Almost. By the time Diana was properly tired, yet happily satisfied, an additional 3 hours had gone by, and Clark could say he too was feeling a bit exhausted himself. A kind, gentle, and friendly Amazon princess Diana may be to others, but she was practically a demon in the bedroom. He was just glad Diana was finally tired out from all their non-stop love-making they had done. While Clark had known his own reserves of energy were near limitless thanks to the yellow sun orbiting the Earth, he didn't know how long it would last with someone like Diana, especially given the fact she was clearly trying to drain him dry of more than just his energy tonight. I don't know what I did to deserve this woman, but I'm not letting her go for anything, thought Clark while he fell asleep in the bed with Diana lying on top of him, also equally asleep. Or so Diana wanted Clark to believe. In truth, she was extremely tired. More than ever in the time she spent in bed with Cal. The sudden desire to claim him in her bed and try her best to tire the man of steel out was something she felt compelled to do. Something she was ordered to do since Diana needed him to be drained of his energy for this next part. Her mind was now glazed over as the command put there by her visitor a few nights ago arose from within, and silently she reached for the lasso of truth hidden underneath the bed. Without disturbing Cal of his sleep, Diana slowly, almost painfully was able to wrap the lasso of truth over his body. She knew so long as she held it, her verbal commands to him would easily be obeyed, and followed long after the command was given if the order was to exist following the rope's removal from his body. Cal, I need you to open your eyes. I need you to look at me. I need you to do something that will make all your dreams and mine come true, whispered Diana into his ear and made the man of steel awaken in a glazed state ready to receive her commands. What, Diana? Asked Clark in a tired yet ready to obey voice. Smiling gently at her lover, Diana whispered sweet loving words to him, and proceeded to give him the commands she had unknowingly been ordered to give to him by Naruto. After giving said commands to Superman, she watched Clark nod slightly, and drift back to sleep per her instructions while ordering him to forget she ordered him to do this. That as far as he was concerned, this was what he wanted, and would have it soon despite what the rest of the Justice League thought about it. The Watchtower Justice League conference room 1 week later. You want to what? Demanded Batman while Superman and Wonder Woman looked unfazed by his glare. I want to go to Almerac and see Queen Maxima. I think the time is right to see her, and if we can gain a very powerful ally, Almerac in the future if asked, could be vital for aid in case of alien invasions. Is that a problem, Bruce? Said Superman casually while Batman narrowed his eyes at him. As I recall, Queen Maxima wanted you for a mate. No doubt, she still does want you as one. If Diana comes along and the two meet, it could get messy, said Batman while Clark frowned, and so did Diana. I can take care of myself, Bruce. Besides, Maxima is a warrior at heart. I will show her I am one too, one worthy of being Cal's mate regardless of what she thinks, replied Diana in her own defense with a hint of anger in her voice. Okay, I can see that. If only slightly. But what about having Big Barda come with you? Why not Green Lantern? Why not someone else who knows about space politics? Asked Batman while he saw Clark looking confused. John is a Green Lantern despite being from Earth, and would be seen as such by Maxima if not her advisors. I don't want him to be seen like he's poking his nose where it doesn't belong. Besides, Maxima only respects people with absolute strength and power. Big Barda, Diana, and myself have that with plenty to spare. John doesn't, and I highly doubt Shara wants John to go since the women on Almerac can be a bit aggressive with men if they aren't tied down with a woman already. While those two are not openly a couple for all to see, we both know Shara will lash out violently at any woman even remotely interested in John, said Clark while Batman nodding since he did have a point. Not to mention almost all of our space-traveling friends in the League are elsewhere at the moment. Big Barda has been all over the galaxy from point or another. Plus, she just confided in me about how she recently decided to go through a separation from her own husband scot-free. They have been having fights recently over the tiniest of things and feels the chance in space to clear her head over what has happened will do the trick, said Diana with Batman scowling since he heard rumors of Scot-Free and Big Barda having arguments in their shared quarters on board the Watchtower. Then why not send Scot-Free? Big Barda could easily clear her head here while Scott is away with you, countered Batman while sensing something was off here, but couldn't put his finger on it. I'm sorry, Bruce, but with the way Scott was arguing with her the past couple of days, I felt Barda was entitled to this offer more than him. She really needs this mission. If Scott were to come instead, I don't think I could hold my temper long enough, and might give him a concussion, replied Diana with Clark nodding. I have super hearing, Bruce. Normal people can't hear what goes on behind those walls, but I do. If I wasn't the lovable Boy Scout of the group, I would have smashed Scott's face in by now, added Clark, knowing that would get the message to Bruce loud and clear. If Scott Free did come on this mission to Almerac, there was a good chance he wouldn't be coming back alive, or at all for that matter. Fine. She can come with you too. But only her, and this is a one-time thing. I don't need this getting out and being considered a mercy mission to help someone else with their personal emotional problems. That is what the League psychologist is for and gets paid to handle, said Batman, with Clark and Diana nodding in agreement. That was, after all, unknown to even them, the main goal and what they wanted to happen. Unknown location at the moment. Naruto was looking over the paper files Tala had been able to acquire for him discreetly using her high-level access within Cadmus's ranks. If anyone questioned her, she could easily say it was for research and other mysticism-based study. Considering the files she had taken, no one would question her about it once they saw what she was accessing in the first place. Naruto had rewarded her with a shadow clone, currently sticking it to her in their bed for the last 2 hours, and knew deep down she loved it. As for what she brought him, all of the files currently on his desk pertain to various supervillains known throughout the United States and the world that Cadmus kept a close eye on. Whether they were deemed a threat to the world or possible resource to employ for one of their suicide squads was all in these files. Some were worse than others. Some were only criminals because they had no choice, or it was forced upon them because it was the only way they could gather funding for their projects. As Naruto looked over the file of one Victor Fries, he saw how the man had wished to save his wife Nora Fries from a fatal disease deemed incurable at the time. So in order to save his wife, he had her put in a state of frozen hibernation. The first and ultimately last one ever done. The file had all the facts and trimmings regarding the details of how the once good scientist had nearly died in the incident at GothCorp by the CEO named Ferris Boyle, but somehow endured to the point of living in such temperatures, and thus resulted in the man being what he was now. According to the file he was reading, his wife was still in her cryotube, but no one knew where it was save her husband. But he had been trying to steal money to gather the means to research a way to cure Nora over reversing the process done to himself. A noble thing to be sure, but Naruto saw notes Cadmus had from the DNA samples they managed to take of the man when he was first imprisoned. From what he could make out from the medical terms used, the diagnosis was not good. Eventually, like the snow melting in warm climate, Victor Fries' own DNA was doing the same thing regardless if he was surrounded by below zero temperatures. Cadmus was apparently working on some kind of cure for both him and Nora, but only planned to reveal the existence of both if they planned to recruit Fries for something that required his talents in all things cold. Namely, finding Superman's fortress of solitude for them, and a means to get in unnoticed. Dr. Hamilton had been there a few times, but after the issue with Superman being a little testy with him regarding Supergirl, the Man of Steel didn't invite him over anymore, and on Batman's own suggestion had changed the security system to not consider Dr. Hamilton a friend. And rightfully so, given Dr. Hamilton was now a part of Cadmus in trying to combat Superman should he ever decide to go rogue again. Whether by manipulation or of his own free will, I will have to balance the scales out sooner instead of later. First, I have to make sure my 3 targets get to Almerac without question. Then, I need to execute my plan to seduce those 3 female Kryptonians to my side. I'll start with Galatea since Tala can give me access to her within Cadmus. Not to mention Starfire is on an island watched closely by the Justice League. That woman wears my favorite color perfectly, thought Naruto while thinking of the other heroes throughout the world needing help on all things following the way of Super Pervert. He wasn't heartless or greedy in the ways of the Super Pervert. Unlike Jiraiya, he liked to spread the wealth in what he did when following such a path. Naruto had felt long ago that if people were to put down their weapons and keep the peace, the best way was for people to find their other half, get laid, and start their own family. Shift their priorities, if you will, to something more personal, yet far more rewarding that involved nurturing a family over trying to do something good or ill to the world. Of course, not everyone could embrace that philosophy since some people seemed incapable of love, or wanting to form a family with that special person in their life. Naruto thought they were all idiots and decided it was time to do something about them, even if the Justice League, or other authorities throughout the world refuse to do it. Why must you bother with them, my love? The women you desire here outside of myself could turn against you, offered Tala, as she walked/limped into the room naked, and saw him looking at the files from earlier. I'm only looking at the pictures and you are just jealous, my sweet Tala. Besides, I would think the idea of dominating one if not all 3 Kryptonian women here would appeal to you, said Naruto while showing her the 3 blonde women, and saw Tala's eyes had a certain gleam of lust in them. In truth, Tala had been a bit curious of what it would be like to have a female lover in a relationship. Prior to Naruto entering her life, all the male lovers had left the sorceress unsatisfied, and considering the idea with each failed relationship with a man. Not only that, but Galatea was also starting to act a bit snobbish around others. Like she was the biggest bitch in Cadmus with the muscle and power to back it up. Of course, Cadmus had means of disabling or controlling the clone of Supergirl using artificial red sunlight, their large stash of green kryptonite, and of course magical items or people on hand to use it. It would be interesting to see what such intimacy with a woman is like given my past failures before this one with Naruto. Not to mention the idea of making that high and mighty Galatea submit to me in the most intimate way is a bit of a turn-on, thought Tala while she now imagined Galatea or one of the other 2 Kryptonian women on their knees, tied up in her magical energy, and forced to pleasure the sorceress how she saw fit. Besides, not every woman here is going to be part of our little group, Tala. Look at this one, said Naruto before handing her a file. Raven from the Teen Titans? Asked Tala with Naruto nodding. According to file, she is in a relationship with that green changeling named Beast Boy, who is also with the Titans. Or rather, she was in a relationship with him until recently, just a few months ago. Apparently, the green idiot's first girlfriend Terra, who had the power to move the ground beneath her, awoke from the tomb she was in after being turned to stone there. He immediately dumped the half-demon sorceress for the blonde-haired girl, who from what this file now indicates here, can no longer use her geomancer powers. Raven took the breakup pretty hard. Not surprising since he ended it pretty hard too without a care to what she felt at the time, answered Naruto while he saw the young woman's closely guarded self-worth nearly be destroyed by the callous way Beast Boy had just told her it was over, and he was seeing Terra now. The audio recording he heard earlier had been painful to hear. Not to mention the report the Cadmus agent, who got the recording, wrote down indicated it was only through sheer determination and support from the other Titans that she didn't unleash all her power on the world. What had really gotten Naruto's attention though was how Robin, who recently changed his name to Nightwing, had done the most for Raven following this event. All the reports about dark-haired warrior, who was a former student of Batman, said the skilled young man was depressed at first over the loss of Starfire after she was forced to leave the Titans. Both had been in a relationship of sorts a while back, but it never really went to the next physical level due to Starfire's own physical strength being beyond that of a normal human. Naruto knew the end result would most likely be Nightwing's pelvis being crushed sooner or later if they did get that intimate. So Naruto decided to scheme in getting two broken-hearted birds together to form their own little nest. What do you intend to do with the changeling? Asked Tala with Naruto smirking evilly at her. Simple. I'm going to make him regret breaking up with Raven for Terra and remove him from the Teen Titans soon after in the process, answered Naruto while Tala shivered in fear when seeing that look on his face. Do I even want to know? Asked Tala with Naruto's grin increasing. It is better that you don't, answered Naruto before he moved Tala onto his lap despite her surprise and slight protest. Wait. I'm still sore from earlier, remarked Tala before she felt said soreness leave from the green chakra Naruto was sending through her body via his hand on her butt. What soreness? Asked Naruto with that ever mischievous look on his face, and saw her blushing now knowing her excuse was moot. You evil glorious bastard, thought Tala while feeling his hands all over her, and pushing all the right buttons with his cock inserting itself into her body. The rest of the files were going to have to wait a little while longer for Naruto read. He walked silently through the halls of this prison. A place designed to hold Gotham's most evil and devious of criminals. All sent here because the system wouldn't allow for them to die for their crimes and killing hundreds of people in the city almost every other day of the week. The criminal justice system called for them to be rehabilitated. Give them another chance, it said. Give them a means to reintegrate with society, it said. Lethal response to their crimes is wrong unless under the most extreme of circumstance, the law said. Naruto disagreed. When you take lives, innocent lives, your life was forfeit in his mind. Look at the Joker. Scarecrow. Deadshot. Deathstroke. Practically all the monsters in the world wearing human skin lived because society refused to eliminate them. And all due to the fear that such a thing would make them more evil. Bah! Idiots, the lot of them in Naruto's mind. How many lives would be spared pain, suffering, and death if the Joker were killed rather than being allowed to live? How many people not be assassinated if Deadshot and Deathstroke were dead in the next 10 seconds? How many lives did the Scarecrow torture and ruin with his fear-inducing hallucinations? Too many to count. Someone had to be held accountable, and who better than those who inflicted such pain on the innocent masses? And it wasn't just the convicts in this place who were evil. Some of the guards here were just as bad. Corrupt. Evil. Bribed by those they were meant to keep locked away to give them whatever they wanted. Sometimes they even looked the other way when the more vile convicts wanted out of the asylum, and gave them the means out. Access to security codes. Guard rotations. The guard even secretly accessed prisoner files to alter reports for the parole hearings so they could be let out when the meetings were held to discuss it. And it wasn't just the inmates who bribed them either. The files Tala provided showed Naruto that Cadmus had also invested in this place, recruiting some of the worst this place had to offer for making suicide squads to clean up the messes they made, but didn't want to see the light of day for the public masses, much less the Justice League to know. The guards provided intel to Cadmus when asked, providing a list of who was in the prison and for how long to give the organization time to recruit the inmates they wanted if needed. In exchange, these psychopaths got a nice head start in escaping the authorities once the mission was over, burrowing deep underground, and plotting future violent acts on the populace. And all the while, the guards at this asylum got a big, fat, secret tax-free bonus check that was untraceable if anyone tried to find out who sent it. Which was why the guards were among the first to die tonight under his sword. One he had in hand, dripping with blood, and staining the ground where he walked. The reason no alarms were raised was due to the shift of said corrupt guards monitoring the insane in this place were dead. Slaughtered was the more appropriate term. No matter how veteran a police officer or detective walked through these halls in the near future, none of them would have the iron stomach needed to see the carnage Naruto left before him. Only the innocent guards were spared his wrath in this place. They were knocked out or hit with a sleep-induced genjutsu, which caused them to fall over flat on their faces almost at the exact same time. Normally, such an act of the guards being disabled or killed would have sent all of the prisoners into a frenzy. This would normally be a chance for them to escape from prison and cause chaos among the masses of Gotham. However, Naruto's presence was not one of joyfulness, playfulness, or even of a perverted nature his of sweet Tala was beginning to love about him. No. This was an entity of death, of a dark shadow that creep in the night, and claims the souls who catch his ire. All the convicts here could sense it in the air, and many of them huddled in their cells shaking in fear at the feeling of malice walking the halls of Arkham Asylum. Even the lowest of scum among these halls felt his presence, and shivered in fear of him. Naruto's first stop among Arkham's worst criminals? The Joker. Normally, the insane man dressed in clown makeup would be grinning over his next big plan to break out, and to kill Batman in some violent plan for all to see. And to call it a joke no less. There was nothing funny about innocent people dying. Naruto didn't think so and Batman didn't think so. Neither did the people of Gotham or the world at large think so too. The only difference between Naruto and them was the former was here to do something about it. Not just because it was the right thing to do, but because the Joker was somehow mentally influencing one of his future prospects in need of being freed from such insanity here. Fortunately, said individual was not here, and she was with another prospect Naruto was interested in claiming. But that could wait until later. Now was the time to focus on this filth sitting in a cell before him. So this is the infamous Joker. People speak your name like it is something that is to be feared. To hear it is to cower and hide from as if you would manifest yourself at the mere word being spoken, like an apparition or demon. What I see is a pasty-faced man wasting his life away to get his jokes and kicks off of hurting others. Pathetic, said Naruto in a demonic voice behind his Kitsune Anbu mask and was currently wearing his old Anbu uniform from a long time ago. Is this the part where you kill me? We both know you won't regardless of the feeling of dread you're giving off, remarked Joker in a serious tone. You think I won't? Isn't that being a bit arrogant on our part? Asked Naruto with a tilt of his head. You heroes are all the same. All bark and no bite. Oh, you may break a few bones in our bodies here. A concussion there. But nothing the good doctors in this place can't fix, and the lawyers who we have to defend us can just argue cruel and unusual punishment to get us out early too. And if you do kill us, it makes you the bad guy. Not us. We become the martyrs, the ones that the people say deserve to live to prove that as bad as we are, can get a second chance in life. Do you really want to kill more of us and be hunted like a dog by Batman? By the Justice League, said Joker with a slight grin on his face at the joke he considered behind the twisted way the world worked. You are assuming they can catch me, countered Naruto while Joker was grinning now. You don't know Batsy like I do. He will become obsessed with you like he is me almost all the time. He will hunt you down, use all his resources, all his skills, and everyone he knows to bring you to justice, as he calls it. The man is as obsessive as I am crazy, and we both know that is saying a lot. Joker shot back while Naruto used his power to melt the see-through glass in front of him. And you don't know me at all, Joker. I'm not like Batman. I'm not like you. I am worse. I kill because I can. I kill because I do what is right. I kill those who deserve to die and do what the people of this world do not have the spine to do, replied Naruto before walking into the cell while Joker scowled further with his grin having left him. I see. You aren't like Batman. No. Batsy won't cross the line of ending a life out of some fear of becoming the very monsters he faces. You will. You will cross it, blur it, and even rewrite it. I don't find that the least bit amusing in the slightest, remarked Joker. Of course you don't find it funny. You aren't facing someone who prefers to act as a club over a sword in terms of being a deterrent to psychos like yourself when they run wild in the city streets. You aren't facing someone who holds back on his enemies and resists the idea of ending the life of people like you. You see this world as one big joke to get your laughs and kicks. I see the world in need of a wake-up call to stop tolerating psychos like yourself. Your death is the start of many wake-up calls for this world, countered Naruto, while his sword was now letting out electricity. Before the Joker could say some witty remark meant to bring a laugh to his own person, Naruto struck viciously with his sword to the clown's heart, and proceeded to fry him with it. The Joker's scream echoed throughout the hall for all the criminals to hear, and it terrified them beyond measure. Even Scarecrow, who was considered the master of fear for his use of fear-inducing hallucination, was scared beyond measure. He had also assumed this so-called hero was one of those who didn't cross the no-killing line, and thought this fox-masked ninja wannabe was bluffing. But being in a cell across from the clown prince of crime allowed him to see how wrong he was and how violent this new person was willing to get. When it was over, the Joker was a smoking skeleton for a corpse. His prison clothes were burned or destroyed in various places. When Naruto pulled out his sword, the body fell forward, and turned mostly into ash. When he turned around, the sight of the neighboring cell holding Scarecrow came into his line of sight, and saw Dr. Crane was indeed terrified of him. As he should be given what Naruto looked like right now. Don't kill me. Please! Begged Dr. Crane while Naruto looked at him behind his kitsune mask while flicking the remnants of his kill off his. No. I don't think I will kill you just yet. I have something else in mind. Tsukuyami, said Naruto after he changed his Sharingan and plunged the not-so-good doctor into a world of what could be called his own personal hell. All the people Dr. Crane tormented, hurt, and killed were attacking him a brutal fashion of what was considered a mob mentality. They clawed at him, bit him with their teeth, and broke every bone in his body. When he died, his body rematerialized completely healthy, and the process would repeat itself over and over again for the next 72 hours inside his mind. While on the outside, Naruto had just stared at him for a few seconds, and walked away when the man's eyes rolled up in the back of his skull before slumping over. Scoffing at such a pathetic man, Naruto moved further down the halls of the insane residing here. He walked by Two-Face, who Naruto knew would require some internal mental help to make the two halves whole again. He walked by the Mad Hatter, the Riddler, and Killer Croc before stopping at the cell containing Victor Fries. Ripping the cell open, Naruto ignored the bitter cold the room generated to keep the man inside alive. As for the man imprisoned here, he was exactly as the foul Cadmus had on him stated. Emotionless. Empty, ready to die should death come. In fact, it looked like Fries was waiting for death to come, and welcome it with open arms. Victor Fries, I presume, whispered Naruto while Victor Fries nodded. And I presume you have come to kill me, assassin, replied Fries while standing up and made no effort to defend himself. You presume too much, Victor Fries. I'm not here to kill you. I am here to help you, said Naruto while Fries frowned slightly. You cannot help me. My condition cannot be reversed, replied Fries before moving to sit down again. What if I told you I could cure you? What if I told you I could make you normal? What if I told you I could save your wife and you could be with her again? Asked Naruto, as he saw Fries' head snap sharply in his direction, and glared even harder. Do not test me, assassin. If this is some means to go to response of violence from me, you are well on your way there, said Fries with Naruto raising his free hand to calm the slightly angered albino. I am not testing you or your temper, my friend. I meant what I said. I can help you more way than you could possibly imagine, replied Naruto while Fries was a bit curious now and dare he think of it, hopeful. How? Asked Fries while Naruto sheathed his sword. Through my own means that are beyond you, my friend. But for this to work, I need to know the location of Nora Fries. I know you know where she is and it is somewhere cold. I will take you to her. I will take you both to a location where I can cure you both. But I need your trust. Do I have it? Said Naruto with Fries staring at him for a long moment before nodding. You do. All I ask is you save my wife from the prison I was forced to put her in and to save my precious Nora from death once she is removed from it. I do not care about my condition, only hers, said Fries in a tone filled with passion. Very well. Once I take you to the designated location where your wife has been hiding, I will begin the necessary healing process of saving her first. After that is done, I will work on you. Agreed? Said Naruto with Fries nodding. I am ready. Though I am curious how you will get me out of here, knowing the outside temperatures of this cell will kill me within a matter of minutes, remarked Fries with Naruto putting out a storage scroll. I wield many different powers, my friend. Some that bend space and time. I can in fact seal you away within this storage scroll of mine. Once done, I head to your wife's hidden location before unsealing you from it, said Naruto with Fries raising what would be a non-existent eyebrow. While I do not fully understand what it is you are about to do, I know there is more to what I see, or hear with my own senses. Do what you must so we can escape from here, said Fries before he told Naruto the location of his wife, which was located in the Arctic, and was a place of seclusion not unlike Superman's Fortress of Solitude. With that in mind, Naruto quickly sealed Fries, as well as a good chunk of snow, and ice into the scroll with him or good measure. He just hoped the poor man was not afraid to be staring into darkness where you could not move an inch. While time in the storage scroll was for all purposes irrelevant, Naruto wasn't so cruel as to let the man suffer there for too long. Making a shadow clone, he gave it the scroll, and told him to go to the location where Nora Fries was sleeping within her cryotube. The shadow clone nodded once before it used Kamiri to head to the given location. As for the original, he had one more stop to make before leaving this hellhole meant to cure people, but was in truth only making things worse. The office of Dr. Hugo Strange. The man had been work late at night again, dabbling in his experiments into the deep dark corners of a person's mind, to see what made them tick, to see if he could mold them to his liking, to see if he alter a person to the point where they could become the very opposite of their true self. The man wanted to play God and loved doing it on his patients. Naruto was not amused. What are you doing here? Get out before I call security, demanded Dr. Hugo Strange while Naruto walked into the room as if he didn't hear it. And what security is that? You mean the security guards on your payroll? On the payroll of Cadmus? Don't bother using the silent alarm under your desk. They are all dead. Every single one. I know they pulled a lot of strings to get you back in here, Hugo. To study the criminal mind. Find out what makes it tick, function, breathe, or just plain live. I know they want you to find a way to make criminals here controllable. To make them do just about whatever it is you want so they can do whatever it is Cadmus wants, which we both know is to bolster the ranks of Cadmus to one day fight the Justice League. Am I wrong? Replied Naruto while seeing the shocked look on Hugo Strange's face. How do you know that? Demanded Dr. Hugo Strange while Naruto chuckled behind his mask. It's not hard to figure out. Cadmus wants a war with the Justice League, but they are not ready for one. The organization is using everything and anything they can get their hands on at this point that would be able to fight against every League member on the planet. Who better to bolster their ranks for the fighting when the times comes? Who better to fight heroes of the world than the villains they put away? Who better to warp the minds of these villains into being soldiers for Cadmus with you as the general? You don't have to be Batman to see just what Cadmus plans to do with you being placed here, replied Naruto, knowing Hugo Strange's appointment here was strictly on the quiet side of things and Cadmus put in a great deal of effort to make sure even Batman didn't know of the not-so-good doctor's involvement here again. You won't kill me. You would risk Cadmus coming after you because of my position in their ranks. The Justice League will also come after you for ending my life. No one can hide from one of these organizations, much less two of them when they are hunting for the same person, countered Dr. Hugo Strange while Naruto chuckled. They can try to find me. But in the end, it won't matter in the slightest, said Naruto before he drew a tanto hidden within his sleeve and stabbed Hugo Strange into the wall with it. Ack! You fool! My death will accomplish nothing! Exclaimed Dr. Hugo Strange while gripping the hilt of the tanto and trying to pry himself free. Actually it will. Your death leaves a blood trail for the Dark Knight to follow. A blood trail I can control and make go around in so many circles, the man will be too dizzy to see what else is going on around him. Goodbye not so good doctor, replied Naruto before he left the room before throwing an explosive tag behind him and made the room explode, which made the fire alarm go off and the entire building from top to bottom to go into lockdown. Not that it could stop Naruto from escaping. One quick cameo to the Arctic, and he was beyond safe from the persecution of any government on the planet. Arctic unknown location. Victor Fries watched with curiosity and a hint of impatience while watching Naruto do what he considered to be his mystical work after creating a dome of energy that would keep the cold around Nora from hurting her. Of course Victor had to stay outside of the dome of energy, and the strange squiggly lines around it in order to live. But he didn't care about his life. Nora was his life. Without her in it, he was nothing. Empty. Hollow. He might as well be considered soulless. Nora was his soul. Victor had never been what you call a handsome man, so finding his other half was considered highly impossible for him early on in life, while dedicating himself to his scientific research. But then Nora appeared in his life. She was a ballerina performing at the Gotham Center for the Musical Arts, and instantly took Victor's breath away. It was as if God had made an angel and sent her from heaven to the earth to show mortals the beauty of the light. To show him the beauty of the light. It took some effort, but he finally got a chance to meet the woman who had stolen his heart. Despite everything, Nora had loved him almost as quickly as he did her. She wasn't a shallow woman. Her spirit was as beautiful as the way she danced. Her smile lit up a room and all basked in the warmth she generated from it. When they married, Victor vowed to love no other. He worshipped the ground she walked on. Her every command, every request, everything she asked of him he obeyed without question. She was his queen, his goddess, his entire universe, and he vowed to let no evil in this world take her from him, not even death. Or the illness that would cause it. Nora, I have done horrible things since becoming this way. I tried to avenge you, but I failed. When the time comes, I will get on my knees and beg your forgiveness for not only becoming this monster, but for the things I have done following it. I only hope that I am worthy of it, and above all else, your love, thought Victor while he clenched both of his hands at seeing Naruto open the cryotube despite knowing it was necessary given what the masked ninja had told him. I know you fear for her, Victor. What I am about to do will no doubt make you feel this way. But don't worry. What I am about to do will cure her. I promise. I have never broken a promise in my life to anyone. I won't start now. Those had been Naruto's words to him. Yet until Nora was healed. Until he could hold his Nora in his arms again, or at least see her stand without fear of the illness claiming her life, he would fear. Yes, for the first time since the accident occurred, Victor Fries would allow the emotion known as fear to creep into his heart and mind. Gotham Police HQ Commissioner Gordon's office. It was a bloodbath, pure and simple, commish. Never seen anything like it in all my years as a cop. All the rookies lost their dinners in there when we stormed the place. Even the veterans like me puked at least once. I can't remember eating half the stuff I retched up back there after I saw the carnage sprayed all over the place in some of the cells, said Detective Bullock, who had a paled face and surprisingly slimmer stomach at this point thanks to its contents leaving him. He had to eat a couple dozen breath mints to get the smell of puke out of his mouth. Not to mention the man wanted to take a super long shower at his apartment to get the smell of blood off of him. Security footage? Asked Commissioner Gordon, since he had been sleeping when the call came in, and some of the veterans he worked with in the past told him it was best not to go see the carnage himself after they got there first. Judging from the photos taken of the place, they were right. None. Some of the guards were dead too. Butchered like most of the convicts who were slaughtered in their cells. Security cameras were turned off. All of them. The witnesses not killed were other inmates, who spoke of some dark weirdo in a ninja getup wearing some kind of animal mask, and killing some of the more darker elements locked up, answered Bullock, with Commissioner Gordon frowning. What about the guards not killed? Not all of them were butchered from the report I got earlier, right? Asked Commissioner Gordon, with Bullock now scratching his head in frustration. That's just the thing, Commish. None of them remember anything before it went down. One moment, it's business as usual that night guarding the inmates. The next, BM, they suddenly fall over unconscious without a reason and wake up to seeing us storming the joint demanding answers, answered Bullock, with Commissioner Gordon frowning. At the same time? Asked Commissioner Gordon. Yeah. It's like someone turned off a switch in their brains and made them fall over into dreamland. I thought they might be in on it, but they all gave the same story and all of the guards were on different levels at the time of the event. No way they could all just fall over at once in perfect sync, Commish. The timing of it unnaturally perfect, said Bullock, who despite his eating habits, lack of tact, language, and occasionally crude humor was for all intensive purposes quite sharp in sensing when something was amiss. It was why the man was a detective after all. The greatest detective, but one you could rely on to have your back when it counted. Speaking of the greatest detective to ever live, thanks for your help, Bullock. Go home and get some rest. Hell, take the next few days off. You deserve it. Lord knows half the precinct at this point deserves the next few days off, said Commissioner Gordon, with Bullock nodding. Thanks, Commish. After tonight, a few days off doesn't sound so bad right about now. Not for nothing, but this incident might scare the criminals into not committing crimes if they fear something happening to them, said Bullock before he left the room. Your thoughts? Asked Commissioner Gordon to the shadowy corner where Batman was listening in on them. A new player is in town. One who came into Gotham tonight from the sounds of it. If an attack on Arkham was going to happen, someone would have known about it before now. This was done for a reason, but done at the last minute, or on impulse. The sheer brutality behind this attack suggests the attacker does not believe in redemption or rehabilitation for those he killed. In his mind, they deserve to be put to the sword, said Batman while he walked over to Gordon's desk and looked at the photos taken. But what about the other inmates this new guy spared? The Mad Hatter, Two-Face, the Riddler, and even Killer Croc were all there watching him walk by. Yet not one of them was attacked in their cells when it happened. Why spare them? Why spare them, but not the Joker or the Scarecrow? Asked Commissioner Gordon curiously. Because none of them have a higher kill count, or enjoyed the torturing of their fellow man. One of the few things Joker and Scarecrow have in common is their love of hurting others in their own unique way. Crane used fear-inducing gas to make people suffer their greatest fears to the point of dying from it. The Joker uses laughing gas and other jokes forged from his sick mind to make people die horrible deaths while smiling in the end, said Batman, with Commissioner Gordon nodding since he saw what the Dark Knight was getting at. That still doesn't explain the loss of Mr. Fries. His cell is empty, yet we haven't found his body. No blood. No corpse. No sign of him being killed or even a struggle within his own cell. We know he couldn't have orchestrated this because no one has communicated with the man since being in it. The man kept to himself. For all intensive purposes, he is the one inmate who has been a model prisoner, countered Commissioner Gordon, while Batman frowned at the mention of Mr. Fries. I'm unsure about how he escaped. Or how this supposed ninja assassin got him out alive. If he got him alive at all. If Fries is alive, I will find him, and get my answers. Once I have more pieces of the puzzle, the picture behind it will become clearer, said Batman while Commissioner Gordon sighed and rubbed his eyes. I just hope this masked ninja or Mr. Fries aren't working together. The last thing the city needs is some plot to possibly destroy Gotham, said Commissioner Gordon before he looked up and saw Batman was gone. He hated it when the man did that. The Arctic at the moment, Nora, whispered Fries when he saw the woman was freed from the demonic mouth that had swallowed her whole and was chewing on her form with glowing eyes. When he first saw the creature and it devouring her, Fries had banged against the barrier screaming her name. The idea of his beloved wife, his treasure, his star, and soul being devoured by this demon brought the fear he felt back 1,000 times over. If he could cry tears right now, Fries knew he would have done it already, and fell to his knees when taken into its mouth. But now she was out of the demon's mouth. Alive from the breathing he saw from the rising and falling of her chest. I told you I would help you, Victor. I am not a liar to those I help, said Naruto, while he ran a medical scan over Nora Fries to ensure it worked, and was pleased to see the woman was 100% healthy again. Forgive me. I had feared the worst. Without her, I am nothing, remarked Victor while seeing his wife now on a table Naruto had somehow conjured seemingly out of thin air. Well, she is alive and healthy now. Sleeping for the most part. I placed a special seal tag on her forehead to keep her that way for now. The last thing she needs is to wake and see you here like this, replied Naruto with Fries nodding, but frowned all the same. Please wake her up. I need to tell Nora what I have become. What I have done. I will not hide anything from her. I will either have her forgiveness or scorn. So long as she lives, I do not care which, said Fries while Naruto looked at him for a second before sighing. Okay, my friend. But I hope she is as understanding as you believe, remarked Naruto before he walked over to the tag on Nora's forehead and removed it. And sure enough, Nora Fries awoke from her long slumber. Frowning, she looked around to see a masked man before seeing his nudge his head to the right. Turning further to look at where he nudged his head, Nora gasped at seeing a man who could only be her loving husband standing outside of a barrier in clothing of an prisoner, and in temperatures well below zero. Victor? Asked Nora with Victor Fries nodding. Nora. My wife. My treasure, whispered Victor happily while seeing Nora rise from the table and held carefully by Naruto when she wobbled. What has happened? Where am I? Why do you look different? Asked Nora while she was helped by Naruto to the barrier to see her husband still on his knees. I have done horrible things, my Nora. After you were put in the cryo tube, an accident occurred from interference of a third party resulting in what I am now. I thought you had died after it happened, and as such I became a monster fueled by vengeance. I vowed to avenge you and destroy the man who ruined everything. Only later did I find out that you were alive, still in your cryo tube. Preserved. Protected from the disease that would claim your life. I tried to gain the funds needed to continue my research to cure you of your disease, but the only way to do it was taking the money through crime, and hurting those who stood in my way. I am not worthy of your love, my Nora, and can only beg for your forgiveness of what I have done. If you do not wish to be with me ever again, to scorn my existence, I will understand, and accept it without question. My only wish, my one true desire above all else, is to see you happy, healthy, and to walk in the warm sunlight. To dance as you danced all those years ago when I first saw you and stole my breath away, said Victor, as he stared into Nora's shocked eyes, and she knelt on the ground so she was eye level with him. Victor, you know I have always loved you. I have loved you since the day we met. Your smile, your shyness, your devotion to me, and your work in wanting to save lives. You didn't have to do what you did to avenge me. Even if I died, we would have been together again one day in the afterlife. Surely you believe that? Replied Nora while Victor nodded his head. I know. But the idea of you dying so soon, it was an injustice in my eyes. You deserved to live a long life, my Nora. So I chose to combat the disease and death itself. My own physical condition is the result of my war with it. I willed myself to live through the pain that came from becoming this with the desire to avenge you, to make those who hurt you know what it means to be hurt beyond measure. In my nightmares I saw you staring at me behind a frozen prison walls, begging me with frozen eyes to save you, and in those nightmares I was powerless. You are what matters most to me, my Nora. My love, my sacred treasure, said Victor with his eyes showing emotions he had long since buried deep within his nearly frozen heart. Oh, Victor! Exclaimed Nora as she cried at hearing his words. Do not cry. I beg of you, Nora. I deserve your scorn. Your rejection, replied Victor with Nora smiling at him while she cried. I love you, Victor. I always will love you. My only wish now is for us to be together, said Nora with Victor touching the barrier and saw her doing the same. Nora, whispered Victor while he saw her love for him in those eyes. I wouldn't worry about that. Victor, I can do the same for you as I did for Nora here. It will be different, but in the end, I can make it happen, said Naruto, as he had read the Fry's file over and over again while acquiring the only other copy of the incident that made Fry's what he had become. It made his blood boil seeing such a brilliant smart man who loved his wife in such a way become this monster driven by vengeance. Thank you, my friend, but you do realize that I am still a wanted criminal because of my escape by your hands. I will be pursued by Batman and possibly the Justice League, said Victor while Nora looked worried since she didn't want to lose him so soon. Leave that to me. Until then, the two of you are going to be spending some quality time on a warm beach enjoying the bright warm sun, said Naruto with a smile behind his mask, knowing these two loved birds were going to be spending a lot time together once he fixed the man's condition. Wayne Manor days later. Is something on your mind, Master Bruce? Asked Alfred while Bruce Wayne ate his morning meal and drank his coffee with the morning newspaper in hand. Just thinking, Alfred, answered Bruce politely, but still serious all the same. About what happened at Arkham Asylum a few days ago, surmised Alfred since he saw the news report on TV and the papers were still buzzing about it. Yes. Countless dead. Inmates and guards alike. One inmate missing. Not only that, but I just learned Dr. Hugo Strange was working in Arkham at night thanks to Cadmus, said Bruce with a frown on his face becoming a deeper-looking scowl. Disturbing. Given Dr. Hugo Strange's skills in manipulating the mind and twisting it, I fear he was doing something worse besides treating the inmates that were under his care, concluded Alfred with Bruce nodding. That was what I concluded as well. I would have accessed the files in his office, but it was destroyed along with him. A sword to his gut while pinned to the wall. No doubt from the ninja assassin who attacked Arkham, said Bruce while wondering who had been the mysterious assassin that made so many inmates within Arkham fear him over himself. Could he be from the League of Shadows? An agent of certain leader you don't wish to be spoken? Asked Alfred with Bruce not liking the idea of that man doing something like this in his city. No. It's not his style. He gains nothing from killing so many. Even if it was to make me look bad, the man doesn't work that way, concluded Bruce while Alfred nodded. Some new assassin? Apprentice of Deathstroke? Or Deadshot? Asked Alfred since he knew his master fought quite a few assassins in the past, and at times were looking for potential students to carry on their work in the event of untimely death. It is possible. But I would have heard of either one taking on a student by this point. One hasn't taken an apprentice since his failed attempt with that geomancer named Terra. The other uses guns and is not into the whole ninja field. No. This is an entirely new player, and is not tied to either one. This is a being of pure darkness, born of the shadows at a level beyond my previous foes, concluded Bruce while Alfred made a noise. Speaking of former students, how is Master Grayson? Asked Alfred since he missed the young man, who left to form the Teen Titans, and wished to go beyond Batman's shadow. Fine from what I have been able to gather. We aren't on speaking terms, Alfred. We have not been talking for a long time since that night he punched me right in the face, replied Bruce while he glanced at his oldest, most trustworthy friend. Well, you did keep Barbara Gordon's identity as Batgirl a secret from him for a long time. Not to mention you didn't go to his graduation. Is it any real surprise he took such acts personally? Questioned Alfred with Bruce making a noise now. I was busy, Alfred, and it wasn't my place to tell him. Barbara could have done it too, said Bruce while Alfred sighed. Master Bruce, with all due respect, you are a master of many things in this world, You are a master of martial arts, science, psychology, the occult, the understanding of magic, and the supernatural that goes beyond imagination. But the one thing you have yet to master, and still a novice at being, is a family man, said Alfred before he walked away to handle the now empty plate in front of his master. Bruce grimaced at Alfred's words and hated the fact the man was right. He also hated the fact Alfred got in the last word so it could hit home. Tropical island classified location. Starfire was swimming quickly through the water. She loved the feel of it every time she went for a swim. After the incident where her mind was scrambled to the point where she couldn't remember much regarding the time spent with the Titans, Starfire had found the sudden urge to be with any man catching her fancy. The Tamaran woman's tortuously implanted programming to be a sex slave by the Gordanians had kicked in with the desire to sleep around, as humans called it, with whoever she found desirable. This of course made things a bit problematic for not only herself, but the Titans, and the Justice League given her situation made Starfire's ability to live on the planet sketchy. On one hand she was a strong warrior and valuable asset should the Earth be invaded. On the other, such things were in question due to her situation in being something else that was not warrior material. It only got worse since Starfire had told the Justice League's chief medical examiner that her sexual preferences for who she slept with were considered to be very open-minded due to her own culture, meaning whoever successfully tamed the Tamaran in the ways of sexual intimacy would ultimately gain the alien woman's loyalty through it. This meant that Cadmus could find a way to use it as a weapon against Starfire to make her talk about the Titans, or the Justice League if they captured her. Or, in a worst-case scenario, they could use it as a means of turning the Tamaran woman into a breeding factory. Cadmus would be drooling over the idea of producing hybrid children, who could be molded into weapons, and used as such for nefarious purposes against the Justice League. So with that in mind, it was decided by the Justice League founding members that until further notice, Starfire was to go on a temporary leave of absence until she could regain control of herself and her libido. A small undisclosed tropical island not far off from the States, and a nice technologically advanced home built on it was arranged for her to live in until things mentally and physically even out for her, though when that would happen was unknown to both the Justice League and to Starfire herself. It was not easy keeping down the urge to fly somewhere, find a male she found desirable, and mate with him to appease her own sexual needs. The Justice League had specifically placed a no-fly zone around the island regarding incoming travelers unless authorized and herself until it was determined she could keep her urges under control. Again, it wasn't easy in the slightest. She was a beautiful woman with needs, and with each passing day the need to be with a man or even a woman, her species was that open-minded, grew stronger. It was only a matter of time before the need for sexual intimacy overpowered the Justice League's command to restrain herself from sexual intimacy. With a sigh of happiness at drying herself off and frustration at being unable to satisfy her sexual urges right now, Starfire walked from the beach to her place of residence. Despite her mind being the way it was, she missed the days of being with the Titans, fighting crime, being with her friends, and of course with her Robin. She frowned at the memory of how Robin had been devastated they couldn't be together anymore, and their romance, for how long it lasted, had ended. From what she had been told from time to time by the Justice League personnel who dropped by with supplies, Robin had become Nightwing now, and still leading the Titans despite his age requiring him to leave now that he was no longer a teen. It wouldn't be long before he went solo, chose a city to protect like so many other heroes in the world, and maybe even join the Justice League. She only hoped Nightwing would find happiness doing what he was doing without her, and find another special woman in his life to help him be happy. Upon entering her residence once the sand from her feet was gone, Starfire found she was not alone. Her eyes widened in shock at seeing a shirtless, athletic, lean in muscle for a male, wearing gray sweatpants, and no shoes currently sitting on her couch. His eyes were mismatched and had a grin on his face that screamed feral, but in a good way in her mind. Even now, the part of Starfire wanting to give in to her sexual urges was calling out for her to mate with this incredibly sexy man, and satisfy her body's needs. The rationale side, however, was still in control, and demanded answers. Who are you? Why are you here? And how did you get into my home? Asked Starfire while unsure if he was a friend, a threat, or something else. In order? My name is Naruto. I came to see you. I got in here through my powers. Oh, don't worry about the security designed to monitor you or any secondary visitors who may try to be here. I have this very impressive system fooled into thinking you are the only one in the house, said Naruto with his smile growing and making Starfire's body become more aroused. And why did you come here to see me? Asked Starfire curiously while it was clear he was eyeing her up and down with interest. Not surprising given how she liked to swim and walk around the beach or her home but naked, with this being no exception. To help you with your current problem. Or should I say your current needs in the way of intimacy, replied Naruto with his eyes clearly showing their lust for her body. I highly doubt the Justice League would allow you to be here to help with my needs in that fashion. You could be in real trouble if they were to find out, warned Starfire, but it was clear her voice was weakening at the idea of informing the League of this intruder. Even now, her libido screamed with desire. Oh, I'm sure they would. Feel free to call them. Tell the man or woman waiting to hear from you on the watchtower about my presence here. Do you really want to ruin this one chance in a very long time to have your libido and sexual needs taken care of? You know what will happen if you call them, right? They'll swarm in here, detain you, search for me, won't find me because I won't be here, relocate you, double if not triple security at your new home, and you will have to go for years without sexual satisfaction. So by all means, go to that communication terminal to your right. Not 5 steps from your current position. Tell them about the man who is here to screw your alien pussy until all its needs are met is here sitting on your couch, remarked Naruto calmly while Starfire bit her lip, looked over at the terminal, and then back at him. I shouldn't allow you to be here, remarked Starfire weakly while Naruto smirked. And you shouldn't be letting your libido feel strangled like it is no doubt feeling right now, said Naruto while Starfire's body ached to be in the arms of this clearly powerful man. I still don't know, commented Starfire with her restraint clearly weakening further the longer she stared at him before he stood up and walked toward her. I'll let you in on a very personal secret about myself, replied Naruto in a slightly deeper and more passionate tone. Personal secret? Asked Starfire while she felt her body burning up now that he was now standing right in front of her person. Yeah. You see, the color orange? It is actually my favorite color out of all the colors out there. And the fact your very skin is a nice healthy shade of it? I find it to be an incredible turn-on right now, said Naruto while smirking and looking down at her from his clearly superior height between the two, giving him a more dominating appearance. By this point, any form of resistance Starfire had against being with this blonde-haired entity was removed, and she leaped onto his well-muscled body. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders and kissed him passionately right on the lips before forcing her tongue into his mouth. Her hands grabbed the back of his head, loving the feel of his blonde spiky hair, and moaned when her now gyrating hips pressed against his own. She knew instantly from what she felt regarding the massive hard-on in his pants that Naruto would be the one to satisfy her sexual needs. He wasn't like normal humans or metahumans or any other male being on the planet. This man was here for a single purpose, and by all the gods of the universe she was going to see to it he carried out said purpose by satisfying her body in every way possible. Eager, are we? Asked Naruto once she came up for air following the kiss. No more speaking. Strip. Now! Demanded Starfire while she moved her hips and pressed herself further against him, and wanted what he had there. Damn, I love being me right now, thought Naruto with a mental smirk before he had managed to make it to the bedroom, having scouted the entire house when she was out, and removed his sweatpants with ease, much to the joy of the hot alien woman on her back and on the bed. Claim me. Satisfy me. Demanded Starfire, as her eyes glowed green, and desire burned in them for this man to use his manliness to tame the fire burning within. As you wish, my horny alien slut, replied Naruto before was on top of her once again, and his erection slowly making its way inside of her womanhood. As for Starfire, she didn't care about being called such a thing. What mattered was being satisfied sexually by this man. He could call her so many things under this planet's sun and wouldn't care. All she wanted was this man's cock in her pussy and ramming it into her nonstop until she was exhausted. Starfire would gladly become whatever he wanted her to be if he was capable of meeting her high standards of sexual intimacy. It didn't matter if he was a bad guy, good guy, or something in between the two. All she wanted right now was this man to give her orgasms. And lots of them. So big. So big, whispered Starfire, as she felt him enter her, and felt pleasure from his thrusts. "So I have been told," whispered Naruto back while he was kissing her and attacked one of her impressive balls with his mouth. Starfire found herself in heaven with Naruto working his magical hands over her body, and his cock within her body. She must have screamed out in pleasure in several different alien languages unknown to Earth, and of course the English language itself, on how great this feeling was with him inside her body. He wasn't being gentle, and she didn't want him to be gentle. Her body wasn't fragile like most human females on this planet. No, her body was strong, fit, sexy, and could take any hit in a fight that could rupture a normal human's internal organs while she only got a minor bruise. "Keep going. I'm so close. South close," exclaimed Starfire while Naruto kept pounding into her without mercy, just the way she liked it. "So tight. You haven't been with anyone in a long time," exclaimed Naruto while Starfire held onto him while he thrust into her. "Nightwing was my first when he went by Robin. He was good to me. But we could only do it that one time. I badly bruised him when it was over," confessed Starfire while she felt him speeding up and trying to bring about her orgasm, and no doubt couldn't risk being injured further while on the job. Wouldn't do any good to be put on inactive duty for non-crime fighting related injuries, thought Naruto, but still filed it away in his mind for later. "I can feel it. I can feel it. I'm going to Seixal," screamed Starfire, as she came hard, and held on to Naruto with her super alien strength. Naruto for his part came hard too. The woman's pussy was a vice beyond measure, and she was seriously milking him for all he was worth. Damn, this woman was going to spoil him. Of course, Tala was no slouch either when they coupled, and Starfire would clearly be a repeat with him in the near future after today. "Damn, that was awesome," whispered Naruto while breathing a bit heavy and Starfire doing the exact same. Please give me more. Please tell me you can give me more," breathed Starfire while hoping he could give a repeat performance. "I can give you more. No doubt. The only question I have for you, my dear, is how far are you willing to go to be with me?" questioned Naruto before Starfire managed to roll them until she was on top while they were still connected at the hip. "If you can satisfy me for the rest of the day, I will be with you to whatever end," replied Starfire while she saw Naruto grin and grab her well-developed orange-skinned ass with one hand. "The rest of the day?" "I was expecting a challenge," replied Naruto before he grabbed her ball with his remaining free hand and enjoyed playing with it. Starfire enjoyed it too, and she would be enjoying it along with the rest of his actions for the rest of the day, well into the night, well into the week. Tala held back a sigh. They were having another meeting. A major one that did not truly concerning her or her field of expertise in the ways of magic. It was mandatory that she attend all the same. The Cadmus High Council Committee consisted of the United States' most highest-ranked government officials, scientists, financial sponsors, and other special interest groups who had something to gain from joining. All such sectors were represented here in this room, sitting in chairs around this circular table at the center with the Cadmus symbol stamped on it. This organization had all started shortly after the events regarding when another version of the Justice League came to this one. Only they were called the Justice Lords, and unlike their league counterparts, had decided to rule over the earth with an iron fist. No one in this room cared for the reason why the Justice Lords of that reality suddenly decided to do what they did. Nor did they seem to care about the fact that the Justice Lords' version of Lex Luthor was to blame once he became the President of the United States, and nearly starting a major war with other countries before the Justice Lord's Superman finally ended him after being pushed into it. No. None of them cared about that. Each of the members here, who represented Cadmus, in way or another, had something to gain when joining the organization, and it was all connected to the inevitable battle with the Justice League. At first, they had feared the Justice League would follow in the footsteps of the Justice Lords, but so far had yet to do it. But after the failed Thanagarian invasion and the growing expansion of the Justice League members, the more militant parts of Cadmus felt it was only a matter of time before a war happened. Only instead of just the founding members of the Justice League, they would have to fight an entire army of heroes loyal to the mightiest of them all. Cadmus knew the planet had no chance of opposing the Justice League if a war broke out between the world and the organization. Governments would fall within days. The new world order brought about by the Justice League would turn things on its axis, and bring about a change the people of the world would be hesitant to fully accept. Unless, of course, Cadmus did something about this, and the Justice League. Hence the desire to gather any and all technology, magic, and allies they could with the means to combat the Justice League. So they scouted, recruited, coerced, blackmailed, and forced others into submission to do their bidding. For every hero in every city, a villain would be waiting to fight said hero, and Cadmus would bring them over to their side to one day join their ranks for the war that was to come. A war they ultimately had wanted and craved, knowing it would also give the chaotic planet they lived on a clean slate when the smoke cleared, with them being the victors along with the spoils that came with it. Among these militant sects within Cadmus was Amanda Waller and General Sam Lane. Of the scientific sect was Dr. Hamilton, who had once been a friend of Superman. For the main financial backer of Cadmus, Lex Luthor was sitting in a chair next to Dr. Hamilton. The one handling the recruiting sect of Cadmus was the late Dr. Hugo Strange. Of course, with the man being killed recently at Arkham meant Cadmus was in need of a qualified replacement was needed for his department on mental manipulation of the mind. They were fortunate there were plenty of others left to replace him, and would do so shortly through a proper screening process done by Amanda Waller herself. The death of Dr. Hugo Strange is a major setback for Cadmus. Arkham is now on lockdown and Batman is sniffing around. He knows about Hugo being there, and it is only a matter of time before what fragmented evidence of our involvement is found by him there, said General Sam Lane in his usual grouchy tone. How did Hugo die exactly? A rogue villain looking for payback for twisting his mind? Or one of those lone wolf heroes who doesn't play by the Justice League's rules? Asked Amanda Waller, knowing such theories were possible. Unknown. From what we do know from our own investigation, this ninja, from what was described by the inmates spared during the massacre, is not someone we have ever encountered before today. Not only that, but he targeted many of the highly dangerous inmates at Arkham. The ones many in the public eye feel are beyond redemption, and should just be given the death penalty for their crimes, replied General Lane while Amanda frowned. What about our contacts with various mercenaries? Could this individual be one of their apprentices? Proving his right to be on his own? Questioned Waller, knowing that was another possibility. No. I checked and double-checked the information myself regarding such a possibility to the point where I contacted such individuals. Neither Deathstroke nor Deadshot have taken any recent apprentices, though they are willing to take up the contract for killing such a person if we are interested, provided we can match their ridiculously steep price when asked, remarked Lane while hating the idea of Cadmus having such mercenaries on call, but with steep financial tags attached to them when such people should be forced under their employment. We will keep that in our back pocket for now. What I want to know is who this person is behind the mask. And I want to know how this person found out about Hugo, and what he was doing there for us, demanded Waller while Dr. Hamilton adjusted his glasses while he looked over some papers. I have studied what I could from the event, but there is little in the way of analysis to determine the identity of this ninja. The weapon, which killed Dr. Hugo Strange, is called a tanto if I am reading this correctly. It is a sword design, which originates from Japan. It was used by ninja there during the time of the samurai, who in turn used the katana. The metal used for the tanto is nothing special in terms of composition, nor is there any special characteristics we could study to narrow down who possesses such a weapon in this day and age, said Dr. Hamilton while Amanda Waller was not pleased. Could you use your magic to find this person, Tala? Asked Amanda Waller while Tala shook her head no. I saw the pictures of the sword in question, and its current condition. Even if I were to hold it in my hands, the overall damage makes it impossible to trace with my powers, said Tala while knowing her lover had done that to ensure she wouldn't be put in such a situation. So we don't know the identity of this ninja, his reasons for attacking Arkham, or how to find him for possible recruitment. I don't see how this requires all of us here, remarked Lex Luthor in a bored tone. It concerns all of us, Luthor, because one of the High Council members in this room was killed. Cadmus was targeted and one of its high-ranking members was taken out. For all we know, this could be a preemptive attack by the Justice League's more wild members, and gives their higher-ups plausible deniability. We must plan some kind of attack and retaliate, exclaimed General Lane while smashing his fist on the table. Retaliate? With what? Galatea isn't ready yet. Our plans to recruit from Arkham's worst to form several suicide squads capable of attacking the watchtower all at once or at different times in the future when required have been thinned considerably. Our forces are not ready to take the fight to the Justice League, said Amanda Waller with General Lane seething at her. She is right, General. Our enemy regrettably has the bigger army and the much bigger stick. Fortunately, our intel has learned Superman along with Wonder Woman and a former Apocalypse Fury named Big Barda are heading out into space to visit an alien civilization on a planet residing in the system. From what I have learned, it is all under the premise of making an alliance with the leader there to help defend Earth should an alien invasion occur, remarked Luther while the general looked ready to explode with rage. It figures. Superman is no doubt going to sell out the Earth to this more advanced race when our guard is down. Of course, what would one expect from him? An alien siding with other aliens to manage a planet he has no business living on in the first place. The only good alien is dead and on an operating table for study to advance us to a new level of power, said General Lane angrily. Possibly. Though what really concerns me is Wonder Woman going with him for an unknown period of time. It's too fishy. I don't like it, commented Amanda Waller with her eyes narrowing. You think there is more to it than just making alliances with other civilizations? Asked Dr. Hamilton with Amanda nodding. Yes. For all we know, Wonder Woman is secretly pregnant with Superman's child. This mission could be nothing but a ploy to ensure Wonder Woman is not harmed during the pregnancy in a safe location away from us. Big Barda might be coming along simply to be a possible bodyguard for safety reasons or some female companion to help out with the Amazon's pregnancy, replied Amanda while General Lane slammed his fist on the table again. The Kryptonian has clearly decided to breed more of his kind. Big Barda is clearly there to help not only with the pregnancy, but to also get pregnant with his child too. If we do not do something soon, our planet could be invaded by an army of his blood in the future, and we will be powerless to stop it, said General Lane angrily. We can't do anything, General. First, Cadmus doesn't have anything space-worthy like the Justice League currently does. Second, even if we did, it wouldn't catch up to the one taking our 3 targets to this planet they are heading to right now, said Dr. Hamilton, knowing the Justice League currently had superior technology over them and had the pre-verbal air superiority in this current Cold War. They already left? Why didn't you mention this at a previous meeting? Why didn't you do something to stop them from leaving? Demanded Lane with Amanda narrowing her eyes at him. And tip our hand? General, you may believe in striking while the iron is hot, but I will not strike before it's time to strike regardless of how hot the iron is at the time. Besides, what would we have attacked with at the time? We have nothing to strike back against them. Cadmus is still in its infancy stage in terms of growing and developing a means of fighting the Justice League, said Amanda, since she knew for all their advancements of Cadmus, they had a long way to go before their strength matched the Justice League, and had to stay their hand until it could go toe-to-toe with them. Don't think of it as a negative, General Lane. Without Superman and Wonder Woman on Earth, the strength of the Justice League is reduced considerably for a good amount of time. Time we can use to our advantage in building up our strength before they return here regardless what happens on their so-called mission, said Luther while the general scowled at him. I would rather those 2 were on the planet where we could monitor and control their actions when the time came to strike should a golden opportunity present itself to us, remarked General Lane with his anger still noticeable. So would I, General. But we can't do anything at the moment about it. So we have to bite the bullet and move on until they return, said Amanda Waller while General Lane shot her a glare. And if they do come back here with a child or children? Born of his alien blood and her own questionable one. I do not like the idea of some Amazon slut from a bygone pagan civilization, which prays to equally blasphemous pagan gods, giving birth to a child that will one day be stronger than both parents, said General Lane while Amanda smirked at him. Neither do I, General. But if they do, I'm sure Cadmus can make up some well-laid-out plans to acquire said child when the time is right. In doing so, we can hold power over both heroes, and even extract necessary samples from the child for our own research to make new super-soldier weapons. We already have Galatea and we can do the same for others once we give her a proper test run. Either way, Cadmus will win in the end. It is only fair such offspring from them, and how we use such a child born from their blood becomes spoils of war, said Amanda Waller while the general grumbled since he did not believe aliens or their clones could be controlled like she did. Humans enhanced and trained to fight while conditioned to be loyal soldiers of Cadmus were the way to go. Born on Earth and thus fight for Earth when called upon. Not aliens with no true ties to the planet. He agreed with Waller that aliens along with everything they possessed were property, and tools to be used by them when caught. Since aliens were not human, they didn't get rights, or protection of any kind while on this planet. But at the same time, General Lane believed they should be kept in cells, and be forced to obey orders when given, with the punishment for disobedience being death. As much as I too wished to drool over the prospect of having Superman's progeny being dissected on a lab table, while the alien menace watches while held down in chains made of kryptonite, we have gotten off track here. This meeting was to discuss the situation regarding the mysterious ninja assassin and what he did at Arkham Asylum, said Luther while Amanda Waller and General Lane turned their attention to him. Any suggestions on your end, Lex? Asked Amanda while Luther shrugged. As of now, without further information? No, replied Luther in a crisp tone. Then this meeting is over. Until a new development arises, continue with your current projects in our assigned departments, commanded Amanda Waller while she saw each person leave the room until only General Sam Lane remained. Someone here sold us out. No one knew Hugo was at Arkham, or what he was doing but the people who make up Cadmus's High Council Committee, exclaimed General Lane in a furious tone after the door to the room was shut, and only he along with Waller were left. I know, replied Amanda calmly while General Lane looked at her with narrowed eyes. And you didn't mention this possibility during the meeting? Why? The reaction of the people in the room could have given us a clear indication of who we could trust and who we should be monitoring, said General Lane while Amanda raised an eyebrow at him. General, if there is one thing you fail to grasp, is that the people who run Cadmus do not have a weak poker face when certain things are brought to their attention. If either of us had revealed there was a possible traitor among us, it would have tipped our hand, and given the traitor a means to keep their secret actions a secret. Hugo was one of us, but out of all our members, he was the most expendable, and was no true loss to Cadmus, despite your own boisterous proclamations earlier here to the contrary. No. What we will do for now is just sit back and do nothing until the traitor leaks out information we know can be traced back to him or her. Once we capture the traitor, we will make this person reveal the identity of the ninja assassin to either bring into Cadmus's ranks, or have the ninja assassin killed for attacking Cadmus itself, said Amanda with General Lane thinking over what she just told him. Fine. But after the usefulness of the traitor is over once discovered, I get to kill said traitor myself, said General Lane with Amanda nodding. Agreed. We will also make sure the rest of Cadmus knows such treachery isn't tolerated by making recording of the event to broadcast throughout the base, added Amanda, since she needed everyone in Cadmus to understand that when you joined this organization, it was for life, and betraying it was not in the best interest of your health. Tala's room. So are they suspicious of you yet? Asked a shadow clone of Naruto laying lazily on Tala's bed while Tala herself was looking over some spell books on her desk. I'm sure they are suspicious, but of who among us they aren't sure. I doubt they would openly mention what the others already suspect, but won't say, said Tala while she saw the shadow clone out of the corner of her eye thinking. Well, they won't suspect you. That's for sure. Hugo's death and exposure to his activities at Arkham gains you nothing. Even if they connect the files you access to what I did, it is not enough to convince them it was your fault. Not all the files you had were about the criminals and inmates there. In fact, only a few of the files were about certain people in Gotham, and at the moment none of them are residing in Arkham, said Naruto while he sat up on the bed and saw Tala was trying to hide her worry at being caught with her own job at Cadmus. You underestimate their ability to see through your tactics and plans, commented Tala while Naruto's shadow clone smirked at her, and I think you overestimate them. Not that it matters. Soon, Cadmus will be severely weakened, and so will the Justice League, replied Naruto with Tala still not looking convinced. And should the two organizations you are slowly breaking down decide to join forces against you? Asked Tala, knowing the enemy of my enemy is my friend. By the time any of them consider the idea, it will be too late. Besides, their ideologies on what to do in terms of protecting innocent lives conflicts like oil and water. Even if they did join forces against me, it would soon collapse on itself. Or I would make it collapse on itself and implode violently, answered Naruto with a grin. Speaking of things imploding violently, I was wondering when you are going to make your move against Galatea? Questioned Tala, knowing Naruto wanted to seduce and turn the clone of Supergirl to his side using his charms on the woman. Soon. Not yet. I want to set up a proper safe house and residence for us when our time living here at Cadmus is no longer necessary, said Naruto while Tala raised an eyebrow at him. And how do you plan to do that? Cadmus keeps a strict eye and control over its funds to ensure a single cent isn't wasted on the organization. There is no way you could pilfer any of the accounts and not be detected by the systems in place to safeguard them, remarked Tala curiously. Who said I was going to pilfer Cadmus's accounts? I haven't and I won't. At least not yet, since the time isn't ready yet to dine and dash from here. The original me took the money I asked if I could borrow from you and decided to hit one of the more expensive casinos in Las Vegas, replied Naruto's shadow clone, with Tala looking shocked by this. You took the money I gave you and went to Las Vegas to gamble? Questioned Tala in disbelief, with Naruto's shadow clone shrugging. The boss was always good at gambling. He has the devil's luck. My old mentor once took all his money from him as a kid when on a training trip, and he spent it on hookers at a brothel. The boss earned it right back, plus interest, thanks to winning a contest the very same day. Jiraiya tried to take it from him again, but a kick to his wrinkly old balls, and yelling out for everyone to hear that he was dirty old man, made him think twice about taking what didn't belong to him, said Naruto's shadow clone while sighing and simply remembering how Jiraiya hated the fact every beautiful woman in the city when looking for Tsunade had stayed clear of him that day. The man totally deserved it. If you are going to be a super pervert around the ladies, you have to be smooth about it. Jiraiya was as smooth as an extremely wrinkled shirt that had yet to be washed after being thrown into some mud. That's not very reassuring, commented Tala with a deadpan look on her face. Don't worry. I can tell you right now that he has hit the jackpot at 3 different casinos and racked up well over 200 million in cash today alone, said Naruto's shadow clone confidently, while Tala was shocked he could take the money she gave him into that much money. That's impossible, exclaimed Tala in disbelief. No, it's true. Like I said earlier, the boss always had the devil's luck. Right now, he's taking a break from gambling to spend some quality sex time with a certain red-haired, orange-skinned, and not to mention hot Tamarin woman with him in his hotel room, said the shadow clone while Tala scowled at him. You didn't have to mention that last part, remarked Tala while Naruto's shadow clone just grinned. Why? Jealous? We could have our own little romp right now if you wanted, offered the clone while Tala blushed. Tempting, but no. If I don't produce some work soon, the other members of Cadmus will be suspicious of me. You said it yourself that we aren't ready to leave yet. I need to keep them off our back on my end until we're ready, commented Tala with Naruto's shadow clone pouting. Fine. Be that way. And here I was going to do that special thing with my tongue you love so much, remarked the shadow clone and made Tala clench the book in her hands tightly. Bastard. He knows how much I love that move. Probably said it on purpose to upset me. And damn him over the fact that it worked, thought Tala while eyeing the shadow clone behind her book, and tried to go back to reading. Keyword being tried. Las Vegas, Naruto's hotel room. Yes. Yes. Oh, by Zael! Yes! Screamed Starfire passionately. Naruto grinned up at Tamarin woman, who currently naked like himself, and riding him for the past hour on their bed. Starfire was enjoying herself immensely from the blissful look on her face while she had his manhood impaling within her body. After breaking the bank of 3 casinos at the exact same time using shadow clones while all were hinged into random people, Naruto went back to his hotel suite, Emperor's Package, at Caesar's Palace, and was tackled by a very horny Starfire who wanted him badly. Not surprising, since he had been gone for a while, and she couldn't exactly leave the hotel unless she wanted to be flagged after being spotted by security cameras. Her presence on camera would reach the Justice League or possibly Cadmus. Both would be wondering what the Tamarin woman was doing in Las Vegas of all places when she was supposed to be on an undisclosed island away from any form of human contact for miles. Of course, they didn't just have hot, passionate sex on the bed during their leisurely time here. They also had it on the couch, the carpeted floor, and even the ceiling. But they also talked afterwards while cuddling, and he asked her some questions while she asked him some in return. Starfire was surprised at first that the man she had been intimate with was in fact a primordial god-like entity beyond measure in terms of power. She also found out that Naruto was building a harem of sorts, and that a powerful sorceress named Tala was another female he was betting. Starfire didn't truly mind it, of course, given her own planet's culture allowed for sexual intimacy to be quite open-minded, both in what her people wore and just who her people were intimate with when desiring such close sexual connection. Starfire silently listened to him explain how he planned to bring some form of balance and stability to the planet by ending the lives of some of the worst criminals around. How he was going to do what the Justice League would not have the courage to do. Starfire had told him how her friends in the Titans would think his actions were wrong and may try to fight him. She didn't want that to happen since it was choosing between her dear friends, including former boyfriend, and her current lover. Naruto of course told Starfire not to worry about such things since he had no intention of fighting her friends or her former boyfriend if he could help it. In fact, he had explained to the red-haired alien woman that one of the planning running through his head was to ensure various heroes, including her former boyfriend, found that special someone they could settle down with. Starfire was happy to hear that, but was saddened to hear what her friend Raven went through with Beast Boy, and being dumped for Terra so coldly. Raven had always been so understanding, if not tolerable, of the Tamarin woman's bubbly nature, and super strength hugs she gave to others. Naruto felt Beast Boy needed to be taken down a peg or two. He wanted the Green Changing to be shamed, disgraced, and humiliated beyond measure. All for what he did to a dear friend of Starfire's and the other Titans too, in hurting Raven emotionally on such a deep level. Do what you feel is right, lover Naruto. Such actions by Beast Boy are unbefitting of a Titan, and he must be punished. Those were her words to Naruto while they laid in the bed one day following one of their pleasurable moments being intimate together. He had every intention of carrying it out once his mission here in Las Vegas to acquire funds to live off of when leaving Cadmus was right. And Naruto would leave soon enough, once he was done satisfying Starfire's need for sex right now. Jump City the mall. A week later, Rachel Roth aka Raven of the Teen Titans was currently at her local bookstore in the mall browsing through the Gothic section for something she hadn't read yet that would catch her interest. She came here sometimes to find a book to read or to get away from the repeated debate in the tower over what to eat for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. A debate she couldn't tolerate today between Cyborg and Beast Boy. She frowned slightly and yanked hard on her emotion that was anger to heal, since lashing out at her one place of sanctuary in the mall was not a good thing. Still, her anger wanted to lash out at something at the mere thought of the Green Changeling. He had broken her heart with his decision to end their relationship for the revived, now depowered Terra. A girl who at first had no memory of her past being a geomancer, former friend turned enemy of the Titans, and being turned to stone in the process of saving the world at the end. It wasn't that Raven minded the relationship ending, as she felt it wasn't truly going to go anywhere special, but rather how it ended with Beast Boy. Her teammate had been so cold about it. He basically said it was over between them and was now going to be in a relationship with Terra. Like trading something he didn't want anymore for the better deal. As if their own relationship, her own feelings about it, didn't matter to him. Like the feelings she felt were a waste of time. A waste of his time. Just garbage that needed to be thrown out of his life before it ruined him. He had been so painfully blunt about it. How she was too emotionally unstable for his liking. How he had to be careful not to make her too emotional or else she would make something explode. That Terra didn't have such problems. Her being depowered meant she could live a semi-normal life, and he wanted to be part of that life that wasn't normal, yet kept things interesting for her. In short, Beast Boy had essentially blamed their relationship falling apart on Raven, and Raven only without a hint of regret or remorse on the issue. It was one of the reasons why Raven couldn't stand to be in the same room as him for more than 5 minutes, barely that much, before needing to leave. Cyborg had been there for her when seeing the depressed look on her face after what happened, but Nightwing had been the most helpful. The two of them talked a lot following the breakup, and he had helped Raven slowly rise above her depression. That regardless of what happened with Beast Boy doing what he did, Raven was part of a team, a family, and would not be alone during such hard times if Nightwing himself could help it. If I didn't know any better I would have thought he was flirting with me, thought Raven with a small smile at the memory of her and Nightwing talking following that event. You know, If you keep staring at this one book, you might burn a hole through it, said a voice behind Raven while standing slightly to the right so he wasn't entirely behind her. As for Raven, her eyes widened in shock at someone getting so close without her sensing them like she usually did. Was this person just that good at staying undetected? Or had she walked so far down memory lane that she got sloppy in sensing others? Who are you? Asked Raven in a bland, emotionless tone, but had her powers on hand to use should this person be a threat. You don't want to summon your powers, Raven. I'm not your enemy. Quite the opposite, in fact, remarked the figure behind her. And I should believe you, why? Asked Raven while trying to get a sense of the person behind her, and soon felt herself go into near shock at the seemingly endless well of power, which was concealed behind the wall of flesh she had yet to fully see behind her. Because if I wanted to harm you, my dear, I would have done it long before now in a most violent fashion, and no one would have been able to stop me. Now calm and center yourself before something here blows up. There is a nice little ramen stand in the food court below. Meet me there in 5 minutes and order some ramen. In my experience, you can't go wrong having a friendly conversation over eating ramen, said the figure before he walked away from the woman. By ancient gods above. What was that? Who was that? That person's power made my father look like a 90-pound weakling soaking wet. Should I call Nightwing and the other Titans? Or do I go down there and talk to him? He didn't attack anyone and wants to talk in an open setting, so perhaps he's not an enemy like so many others. Of course it could be the opposite, and he just wants to gloat before lashing out in public. Wouldn't be the first time it has happened, thought Raven depressingly before glancing down at the food court below, and saw a figure at a table eating ramen. Correction, the man was eating what appeared to be his third bowl of ramen without a worry in the world. With a sigh regarding her current situation, Raven decided to do as the man asked, and soon headed downward toward the food court before walking over to the ramen stand. She ordered the miso ramen and walked over to him before sitting down across from the strange man still eating like there wasn't anything wrong with the universe while eating ramen. How is your ramen? Good? I like to think so given my own experience with it. Not as good as back home where I am from, but pretty damn close. I think the secret ingredient is love, exclaimed the man happily while rubbing the bowl against his face. You are weird, said Raven before indulging herself in the food while silently admitting to herself it wasn't half bad. Says the woman wearing a black leotard and a cape with a hood to cover her moody face from the world, countered the figure with Raven glowering at him. What do you want? Asked Raven with the figure smirking at her. I want to help you, daughter of Trigon, answered the man while Raven stopped eating and glared harder. And what exactly do you mean by help, or do I have to ask? Questioned Raven while the figure wearing dark glasses let out a chuckle. Nothing sinister, I assure you. I only reference your father to be taken seriously and to get your attention. Now that I have it, I can continue on with this conversation. You see, I heard about your romantic problem with the green changeling up in your giant T-shaped tower on the island not far from here. Tell me, is that fool as big an idiot as he is green? Questioned the figure while Raven's glare lessened somewhat, but wasn't much given how their choice of topic was almost as sour. Pretty much. The impulse to slam him into a wall until he becomes green goo has been difficult to clamp down on as of late, answered Raven knowing it was the truth. I thought so given how he dumped you so suddenly and coldly for some former friend turned enemy turned normal person. I'm sorry you had to go through that, my dear. Given your constant training to control your emotions, I imagine it was quite a task not making the city explode from the pain he invoked in you, replied the figure while Raven just stared at him without any emotions on her face, though her eyes told a different story despite Raven's best attempt to hide it. Beast Boy had hurt her, badly. Only now had the emotional wound begun to heal with the help of the other Titans. But how did this guy know that? Why are you here? Asked Raven at last while the figure smirked. I want to help you. To be more accurate, I want to help you find that special someone. A someone who won't deny you. Who won't betray you. Who will love you for you and all the emotional baggage you have that comes with it, replied the man while Raven looked unimpressed by his words. Thanks, but I don't need anyone playing Cupid in my life. I got by without being in such a relationship before I was a Titan. I will do it again long after, replied Raven and now moved to leave. Are you sure? If you won't accept my help with your love life, what about controlling those pesky emotions? You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones where the slightest emotional response from them results in a broken glass, a table, the chunk of a building, or a nearby state, commented the man offhand with Raven stopping. You know how to control such emotions? Asked Raven curiously. Who better than the one person who wears his emotions on his sleeve? I have felt every emotion there is in life. Hate, anger, rage, love, fear, lust, joy, sadness, laziness, courage, and any other you can name off the top of your head. I have felt them all. Seen them all. I even fought some of them within my own mind. You have done that at least once, haven't you? Said the figure with Raven's eyes widening since she had done all of that before. And how exactly do you suggest I gain control over my more dangerous emotions? The ones I spent years trying to keep a lid on through the teaching the monks gave me, the mediation techniques I learned, and the hard work in forcing them down? Asked Raven with the figure chuckling now. Easy. You let them out. You let them vent, answered the figure to Raven's surprise. Let them out? That is your answer? If I let them out, they will destroy everything around me, protested Raven while the figure remained calm as ever. When I meant let them out, I meant to let them out in moderation. You keep them all repressed and tightly bound within you. Is it any real surprise when something happens that your powers do something to an object nearby? Countered the figure with Raven frowning. The monks who taught me said I had to constantly keep my emotions in check due to my father's blood being a bad influence, replied Raven with the figure frowning, and they would know how exactly to teach you. These same monks told you to keep every single emotion repressed to the point where you feel little to nothing at all. They might as well as made you into a ticking time bomb that would go off at some point in time so long as it wasn't near them, countered the man while Raven wasn't so sure. I don't understand, said Raven in confusion, while the man sighed. Repressing or suppressing emotions is never healthy, regardless if they were good or bad ones. I knew a man back where I was from who believed emotions were unnecessary in life. That they made you weak, blinded your judgment when making hard choices or key decisions. The man trained an elite unit of fighters called Root, and he made them all into emotionless drones who obeyed his every command. When the man died for being the crazy war hawk bastard that he was, they couldn't even think for themselves, and were mindless in terms of what to do. By the time they were given any type of means to feel emotions, they had mental breakdowns, and ultimately killed themselves or were locked up because they became a threat to others from the insanity over the things they had done in the past, explained the man while Raven nodded. But my situation is different. I'm not suppressing or repressing my emotions to the point where I feel nothing at all, but to keep my powers in check, which are influenced by my emotions, said Raven with the figure nodding. True, but the method given by those stupid monks is still not healthy. Hence why you have the occasional emotionally induced magic attack-based accident. Instead of doing what they told you to do with your emotions, you should let them out in moderation, and let them breathe. Think of it like ventilation for your body. You build up emotional stress every day and it builds and it builds and it builds without anywhere to go. Eventually it lashes out through your powers over the smallest things until the pressure is low enough to stop. At best, it will be like a geyser shooting water out of the ground like Old Faithful, and cause a small stir. But the worst-case scenario would be your powers exploding out of a city-destroying volcano, and you would of course be Pompeii. By venting all of your emotions in a healthy manner instead of repressing or suppressing them, you actually do a better job preventing your powers from lashing out. No eruptions, no destruction, said the figure while Raven thought about his words in her mind. And the mediation techniques? Asked Raven curiously. I will admit, you need those to keep your center. Don't lose the mediation, but don't keep your emotions bottled up either. Also, don't be afraid to express yourself more often. Take up a hobby, do some paintings, write your own novel, or something that helps keep your center in place. Your true friends will support what you do, and those are the only real people who matter in this world, offered the man while Raven thought about it and smiled. Thank you for the advice. I think I will try it out, replied Raven with a small smile. I help when I can. Sure you don't want advice on your love life? Asked the figure with Raven shaking her head. Thanks, but no thanks. I have to figure things out on my own, said Raven before she began to walk away. Well, from what I have seen, I think another bird in that tower also needs someone in his life too. Birds of a feather and all of that, remarked the man and made Raven stop for a second. Birds of a feather? Could he mean Nightwing? Thought Raven before she turned around to find him gone, and saw a note on the table. Don't be afraid to let people in, Raven. You know your true friends won't betray you like a certain green idiot did. Seek out your fellow dark bird in your home. I think the two of you will really hit it off if given the chance. Don't worry about being in the shadow of a certain cheery alien girl in your shared lives. He made peace with her departure long ago, and is in need of someone else who can help him know true happiness. Trust me. I know these things. Signed, N. P.S. Speaking of that green moron, I plan to prank the crap out of him soon to the point where he won't be able to show his face anymore in public. I might even try to get him kicked off your team. In any case, you have friends, Raven. You have a friend in me, the other Titans here, in Titans East, and in Nightwing. Especially Nightwing. You two need to go on a date. Trust me. Raven blushed at the last part. Her and Nightwing? From what the note suggested, if she read between the lines correctly, her own teammate in the Teen Titans cared about her in a way that was beyond mere friendship. But what if this mysterious end was wrong? She knew Starfire leaving had deeply hurt Nightwing when the young man was still Robin, but surely the alien girl's mark still existed on him, right? Still, the man had given her an idea on how to deal with the emotions she felt and the way things were going. A little innovation in trying new things couldn't hurt, right? Miami. Somewhere on the beach 3 days later, Victor Fries was in heaven. How could he not? One day he was in his own personal hell with Nora in her cryotube, his body altered, and forever banned from the warmth that life could create around him, trapped in a cage of snow, ice, and death. Now he was walking with his wife Nora on the beach. The warm sun shining down on their faces, the weather comfortable, and the one person he wished to share it with now walking beside him, her hand intertwined with his own. She held him close and he did in turn. Both of them afraid this was a cruel dream turned nightmare with one being without the other. Yet each day they woke up in the morning together dispelled the fear of it not being real. They had each woken up to see the other's face, the other's touch, the sound of the other's soothing voice. And it was all thanks to one mysteriously masked ninja wielding mystical powers beyond their comprehension. The home they were staying in was purchased by their mysterious benefactor, but all of it was under Victor and Nora Fries' name for all legal purposes. The ninja had given them the money to start over again, and told them to enjoy their life together. What do you want to do for dinner? Take out? Or maybe I should make something for us again? Asked Nora when they walked into the house once their feet were clear of the sand given the walks on the beach were barefoot. Whatever you decide I am content with so long as I share the meal with you, my Nora, said Victor lovingly to his wife. In that case, I think I'll make something again. I'm going to go change. Be right back, said Nora while heading upstairs. When she was out of hearing range, Victor Fries' face went from a smile to a frown. I won't ask how you tracked me down. I know better, remarked Victor before looking over at his shadows in the room and saw Batman standing there. It took me some effort to find you. If it wasn't for the fact both you and your wife were signed as the owners of this house, I wouldn't have been able to locate you, said Batman with Victor nodding. I know. I wasn't trying to hide when I did that. Nora and I agreed we were not going to hide when we bought this house, replied Victor before moving over to the couch and sat down while Batman just watched him. Does she even know? About what you were? What you did? Asked Batman with Victor nodding. I hid nothing from her. I confessed everything. I confessed my sins to the woman I loved and begged her forgiveness. I begged for her mercy. I begged for her love. Even if I was undeserving of it, she gave it to me without hesitation. And every day I spend with her I cherish as if it is my last, said Victor with Batman narrowing his eyes at him. I could take you back into my custody. I could take you back to Arkham to serve out your sentence, warned Batman with Victor nodding. I know. I do not possess the means to fight or oppose you should this meeting turn into a hostile one. That part of me you once fought no longer exists in this world, said Victor while he glanced over at the stairs where his wife was no doubt getting changed, and she would be down soon. I'm willing to overlook you being here in exchange for information. Namely about the one who sprung you from Arkham, and if I were to make a guess, cured your wife of her disease and your condition, said Batman with Victor shaking his head. You desire answers to questions that I cannot give. I never met our masked savior until the night he freed me. I watched him wield powers beyond science and of the mind. I saw him save the woman I loved, and Nora in turn saw him use his power to cure me of my own condition so we could be together. He acquired the funds for us to buy this house and to live a peaceful life like I once told you about long ago I would kill for. That is all I know of him, replied Victor, with Batman watching him for any form of deception and finding none. What power did he use to cure you and your wife? Asked Batman, with Victor looking at him now. I do not know. But it is a power not born of science. If this is enough, I must ask you to leave, before she comes down, replied Victor, with Batman nodding, and left without a word or sound. Victor! Is everything all right? I thought I heard you talking to someone, questioned Nora with a hint of worry. It's all right, Nora. Everything is fine. I was just speaking to myself, said Victor while he smiled at her. You don't have to hide the truth from me, Victor. I know about your past. It was one of the Justice League members, wasn't it? The one from Gotham? The Batman? Asked Nora with a hint of worry, and holding Victor while he let out a small chuckle and gave a weak nodding. Yes. It was Batman. I'm sorry, Nora. I didn't want you to worry. He came to see me, no doubt wondering if I am somehow still a threat, or the one who freed us from our prisons was a threat, said Victor, with Nora holding him tightly now. He's not going to take you away? Asked Nora with a hint of worry. No, my love. He will not. I told him all I knew, and in return, he would leave us alone, said Victor while Nora still looked concerned. Won't this put the ninja at risk? Asked Nora, since she didn't want Victor to betray the man who helped them so much at this point. No. The ninja expected Batman would one day find us no matter what we did. As far as our benefactor is concerned, Batman will be running around in circles trying to find him, said Victor, with Nora nodding. They could only hope nothing bad was happening to their friend right now. With Naruto at the moment. Very good, Starfire. You are starting to get back your muscle memory on how to fight skilled opponents, commented Naruto while watching her spar with a shadow clone. It had taken some convincing, namely the promise of sex later, to get Starfire to spar with his shadow clone and get her up to fighting form. He feared her time away from training and fighting villains would make the Tamarin woman rusty in the ways of term of combat against a strong opponent. Fortunately, Starfire was able to prove that she could be quite capable of fighting once her own libido was brought under control. The girl had quite the punch when it wasn't enhanced by her star bolts. Not to mention the view of her legs when she kicked was quite sexy from where Naruto was watching the spar. So far everything he planned was running smoothly. But Naruto knew for it to continue running smoothly, everything else around him had to work perfectly with his plans. So far, he had the element of being an unknown phantom in the eyes of his enemies. But that could easily change if he wasn't careful with how he played things out. Stretching out his senses, Naruto focused on Gotham City, with his face forming into a form at the negative emotions overflowing from the place. Even with his intervention at Arkham, the place still felt like Madara had channeled all his hatred, and literally crapped it out onto the city to fester like a plague on the populace. Sure, it was a crude way to describe what Gotham felt like, but no less accurate. Focusing on the various individuals with powers in the city, Naruto easily sensed one Pamela Isley, who was currently hiding in the abandoned Gotham Zoo, one of the few places she could actually hide out until she was ready to lash out at the world for hurting the world's plant life. He had read the extensive file Cadmus had created on the beautiful woman in the hopes that they could somehow duplicate what she had become, or to find a way to influence her to join them in their quest to combat the Justice League. A false promise of land to grow her plants, and to help protect nature using the technology gained from winning against the League was something Cadmus thought would help in sweetening the deal. Naruto felt she was getting a bum rap by both Cadmus and Batman in terms of dealing with her ways of doing things. Yes, it was true that nature was in fact suffering, but the way Pamela went about it was all wrong. She attacked the problem in a way that made her out to be the bad supervillain the papers and media outlets portrayed the sexy temptress. They called her crazy. A monster. They said she was nuts in wanting to save nature and plants from being wiped out. Naruto felt she wasn't wrong, but just went about solving the problem itself the wrong way. The media put her in a bad light. Doing what she did up until now. That's a given in terms of how people perceive things. Yet Naruto felt she should try to turn the light from bad to good, show the world just how toxic the area around them truly was and show humanity the fruits of their labors in polluting the planet. Make the current generations thinking up the place think about the next generation's future, and to make the next generation want to get up off its ass to do something about it so the planet isn't such a crap hole when they are old enough to run things. He would no doubt have to make contact with her soon. Even more so due to the very emotionally distressed woman living with her in said hideout right now. A ringing of his cell phone got his attention. Seeing it was the only person who had his number, he put it to his ear. "We have a problem," said Tala with Naruto frowning. "I'm listening," said Naruto while focusing on the conversation with Tala overseeing Starfire train with the shadow clone. "Cadmus is on to me. One of their agents was in my room. Unauthorized. He was sent to snoop around and look for incriminating evidence of me being the traitor," said Tala from her location outside of the Cadmus base with the burnable cell phone he had given her. "And they know or suspect you are a traitor, how exactly?" questioned Naruto since he knew they didn't leave a trace of his presence in the main spell room. "He was in the bedroom scanning for something with some kind of device I have never seen before. I got worried. I knocked him out and destroyed the device. When he wakes up, the incident will be reported to the others," exclaimed Tala worriedly. "Yeah. That does prove to be a problem. Even if you could justify beating the crap out of the infiltrator over him sneaking around, it doesn't explain why you suddenly destroyed his technological toy given to him by the others. Especially since we don't know what said toy does in the first place." "Definitely a problem," commented Naruto with a grimace. "How do we handle this? Isn't it too soon to make a move to leave Cadmus?" asked Tala while worried they might tip their hand too soon. "Not necessarily. I have a lot of cash now thanks to my trip to Vegas. I already set up a nice little penthouse for home where we can to live in," said Naruto while knowing Tala would be worried and amused by his choice of residence. "Where?" asked Tala while sensing she wasn't going to like it. "Metropolis," answered Naruto. "What? Metropolis? Are you insane? Lex Luthor resides in Metropolis. He has eyes and ears everywhere in the city. Technological or otherwise, he built over half of the city with just his money and his genius," exclaimed Tala into the phone. "You overestimate the man's actual brilliance, Tala. Besides, if he were truly brilliant, Lex would have learned Superman's identity years ago. He would have killed Superman years ago. Not to mention Lex wouldn't have gotten cancer from the radiation produced from the shard of kryptonite he would always carried around. Seriously, you would think the man would have put it in a lead container. If it hurts Superman, who is impervious to almost everything, imagine what it does to normal human beings. The man is an idiot, who is slightly smarter than most, and has an ego that is also bigger than most," replied Naruto with Tala growling into the phone. "This isn't funny, Naruto. You are playing a dangerous game, and clearly find it funny like some sick joke." "Well, I don't find it funny. I will not be put in harm's way just for your own amusement," exclaimed Tala while Naruto frowned. "First, I don't think of this as some sick joke, Tala. Second, I won't put you in harm's way should things go bad. I have never put you in harm's way up until now, and I won't allow it to happen either, so calm down. As for Lex, you leave him to me when the time comes, and trust me when I say I can fix this issue in my own way," replied Naruto with Tala on the end calming down. "All right. But hurry. I don't know when the Cadmus agent was supposed to report in, and the moment he doesn't, I will be hunted down for questioning," said Tala knowing she was as good as marked down as a traitor by Cadmus when their suspicion of her grew. "Okay. Don't worry. I'm going to finish up my spar with Starfire and head back to pick you up. My plans for Cadmus are going to be altered a bit, but it will get them off your back in terms of what to classify you as in the future," replied Naruto while he began to grin evilly even if Tala couldn't see it, but she could sense it. "And what are you planning to do exactly?" asked Tala while dreading the answer to the question. "They are looking for a deadly killer and ninja assassin, right? One they wish to kill or to recruit into their ranks? I'll simply make a grand appearance, and shake things up for them in a way they will never recover. Also, don't worry about Galatea, I'll be picking her up when I get you too," explained Naruto calmly. "Are you sure? Galatea is very strong and has combat training. Unlike Supergirl, she knows how to hurt people when fighting, and enjoys it from what I have heard," warned Tala with Naruto smirking on his end. True, but compared to me, Galatea is a novice. In any case, I know of a place where I can keep her contained long enough to convince her to side with me. You just get all the things you want from your room and be ready to leave within the hour. I'll take care of the rest, replied Naruto, knowing he would have to get Tala out of there in a hurry, and wanted her packed before he arrived. Okay. I'll be ready. Just hurry, whispered Tala, knowing she could defend herself against some of the troops Cadmus had on hand. But some of the others in the lower sections of the base? Not a chance. I will. Now move that incredibly hot ass and I'll be there right away. See you soon, said Naruto before he ended the call. Who was that lover, Naruto? Asked Starfire, since her sparring partner had dispelled earlier and saw him talking to someone on his cell phone. That was Tala. She ran into some trouble with Cadmus. I need to get you back to our penthouse home before I go pick her up. I need to divert and misdirect Cadmus away from suspecting her of betraying them so no one knows of her actual involvement in my actions, said Naruto with Starfire nodding. I see. I hope shared lover Tala does not mind my presence in our new home. I do not wish there be the friction that comes from being around another female who is sexually interested in the same male as myself, said Starfire with Naruto grinned. Just be respectful of her space, and when she wants such moments with me, Starfire, and you won't cause said friction. Now let's get to our home, said Naruto before he grabbed her by the waist, held her close, and used Kamui to head to their intended destination. It was time to shake up Cadmus, and see what dirty secrets fall out for all to see and the Justice League to clean up.